across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Ah, there you are. That's right. It's me. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm your exciting new host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 03444991000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, January the 26th. Here's what's coming up. In an hour or so, I proudly present our star guest, Lucy Connolly, the victim of two-tier Keir's shameful two-tier justice system, sent to jail for a tweet, who has reinvented herself as an incisive and astute political commentator. I'll get Lucy's take on today's big stories, including Suella Braverman becoming the latest big-name Tory to defect to Reform UK. Meanwhile, I've got the latest from Crowborough, the pretty Sussex town the government abandoned. Despite passionate protests by furious locals, 540 migrants, all young foreign men, are currently moving into the local army training camp. Terrified residents fear women and children will not be safe. 03444991000. Also on today's packed show, the ISIS bride terrorists the government quietly allowed back into Britain. Will Shamima Begum be next? 03444991000. As part of her sweeping police reforms, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood vows that she's scrapping non-crime hate incidents. But is she really? Or is this just another of Shabs's trademark empty announcements? 03444991000. Plus, more woke madness as a crazed historian insists that Shakespeare was actually a black Jewish woman. Yeah, right. Critic Ali Ross on the perilous state of British TV, and Kinsey Schofield on Meghan, Harry and the Royal Merry-Go-Round. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday afternoon together, and we've got so much to pack in today that I'm going to go straight over to my first guest, who is our excellent international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Good afternoon.
Here we are on the afternoon show. Before we talk, let's talk about, or let's take a look at the big political story of the day. Yet another massive name Tory defects to Reform UK. This one is Suella Braverman, former Home Secretary. Let's have a quick look when she suddenly cropped up today with Nigel Farage, her new boss.
I believe that a better Britain is possible. And because I believe that is possible, today I'm announcing that I resign the Conservative whip. I resign the Conservative whip and my party membership, a party membership of 30 years. It's gone. It's over today. And because I believe with my heart and soul that a better future is possible for us, I am joining Reform UK.
Isabel is with us. Isabel, quite an event. I mean, last week, another seismic event, Robert Jenrick crossing sides, crossing the House to Reform UK. Before that, Nadhim Zahawi, a former... So we've got a former Chancellor of the Exchequer, a former Justice Secretary or Shadow Justice Secretary who was an immigration minister under, funnily enough, the then Home Secretary Suella Braverman. So massive names from the Tories defecting. I look forward to reading the Daily Mail tomorrow, which will no doubt say that Suella Braverman joining Reform is an absolute triumph for Kemi Badenoch. She must be thrilled. When do you think the Daily Mail might get the message that these big names, huge names, defecting to Reform UK are not good news for the Tories?
Well, it is a massive blow to Kemi Badenoch, not least because she said, didn't she, last week, that there wouldn't be any more defections. What a ridiculous... Two since then. Hostage to fortune that comment was. And the Conservatives have further worsened today's news for themselves by putting out this really ill-judged and frankly pretty unpleasant message on social media in which they questions Suella Braverman's mental health. They've had to withdraw that. They said that they tried very hard to look after her mental health, but ultimately were not able to do so. And I'm only paraphrasing a little bit there. Very embarrassing. They're claiming this was an earlier draft of their reaction. I mean, such incompetence, honestly. So a seriously bad day for Kemi Badenoch. And as for the Daily Mail, you know, they're just desperately clinging on, you know, still pecking at the carcass of what remains of the Tory party and running these ridiculous things with little labels on saying unite the right. You know, the thing is, the Conservative Party isn't on the right. They failed to understand. This is why there is a Reform Party. This isn't about uniting the right. It's about destroying the party that pretended to be on the right, duped voters into backing it, and is in fact a different ideology altogether. So there will be no uniting with the Tory party.
Yeah, questioning Suella Braverman's mental health because she's defected to Reform UK actually is a clear sign that Conservative HQ is now in panic stations. They seriously are. And if they're putting out that sort of nonsense, that proves how scared they are. We cannot, or the Mail and all these traditional Tory supporters, they've got to wake up and smell the coffee. These defections, Kemi Badenoch, count it, you know, we're on the countdown now. She'll soon stand up. So this is very good for the Tories because we're cleaning out the riffraff, the people we don't want. This is excellent. It isn't excellent. Isn't excellent to lose in 1 week a former Chancellor of the Exchequer, a former Home Secretary and a former Immigration Minister and Shadow Justice Secretary. That is not good. That is disastrous.
Look, the Conservative Party, as people knew it and thought it was, is dying before our very eyes.
Yes.
The defections are of the last remnants of the Conservative Parliamentary Party that actually believe in right of centre politics. You know, and a key theme of this from both Suella Braverman and from Robert Jenrick has been this totemic issue of the ECHR and the UK's membership of the ECHR, which causes us so much grief and the inability, apparently, to do what we want to do and protect our borders and eject those who shouldn't be there. And time and again, our hands appear to be tied because of this dreaded ECHR. And what both Suella Braverman said today and Robert Jenrick told us last week is that there is hardly anyone in the Tory Parliamentary Party that genuinely wants to leave the ECHR. Now, that is an absolutely totemic issue. And anyone who thinks that the Conservative Party is truly conservative while still being willing to basically sign away our freedoms and our sovereignty over our own affairs to this distant legal treaty is really on a different planet.
Yeah, and the award for the most tin-eared politicians in Westminster or around the country, to be fair, goes, of course, to centrist Tories, Ruth Davidson and Andy Street, who have launched this new breakaway group to bring the Tories back to the centre because they fear they're going to drift too far right, to stop the drift rightwards of the Tory party. No, you idiots! That's the way the country's going. And if you don't recognise that, you are more doomed than we thought you were. This is the point. These people, these like Mandelson and now Ruth and Andy, all banging this drum. Elections are won in the centre. Well, maybe in the past, but let me tell you, times, to quote Bob Dylan, the times they are a-changing. And if you think the next election is going to be won in the centre, I've got some swampland to sell you in Florida. It isn't going to be, is it, Isabel?
It isn't, but I think that there are so many old bits of the establishment that simply cannot get their head round the seismic shift that is taking place in our politics. From
exactly.
the old two-party system with the supplement of the Lib Dems, that an awful lot of voters, respectfully, are labouring under misapprehension that if they don't like the Tories and they don't like Labour, the Lib Dems are somewhere in the middle. Well, they're not. The Lib Dems are rabid lefties too. And that was the old scenario. Those were your choices, realistically, if you wanted to, you wanted to see the party that you voted for get into government. That is changing before our eyes. It is people say it's a once in a generation. I think it's much longer than that. I think this is a once in a 50-year, maybe even longer, revolution, if you like. And it is being driven by the despair of ordinary people who are not actually interested in party politics. They don't care about right and left and, what are the old labels? They just see their country disintegrating. They see their communities being destroyed. They see our ability to apparently control our borders and what happens on our streets still being sort of delegated to supranational organisations and legal entities, even though they voted for Brexit, and they don't want to carry on like this. And that is why there is such a groundswell of support for Reform UK. It's a massive, massive shift in our political landscape. And we don't know where this will end. We don't know whether Nigel Farage can take it all the way. But at this point, it looks like he's achieving what he's setting out to do, which is to destroy the Conservative Party so that the right, when it comes to the next election, is not actually split in the way that the Daily Mail fears.
Absolutely. The Westminster oil tanker, the Westminster juggernaut, is having a lot of trouble sort of changing course and adapting to what is the new reality. They cannot even see it, let alone accept it. It's ridiculous. So all those people going, the next election will be one in the centre. You're the ones who are going to lose the next election, you absolute immobile idiots. Now, very quickly, you've got to get this in. Meanwhile, over at Labour Towers, all is not well. What are your thoughts on what Starmer did yesterday, blocking Andy Burnham, being able to stand in Andrew Gwynn's seat up in the north, saying, oh, well, it's because that will trigger a mayoral election in Manchester. That will cost too much money and the people don't want it. And also, Andy's doing such a great job as mayor. I don't want to lose him there. And that's why I don't want him to stand in that by-election. That isn't why he doesn't want him to stand in that by-election, is it? Why do you think it is, Isabel, that Keir Starmer was so keen to block Andy Burnham's return to the House of Commons?
Well, there you have it in a nutshell, why so many people hold politicians in so much contempt, and Keir Starmer in particular, because all of that you just recited there was total and utter nonsense. The reason he didn't want Andy Burnham to stand in that seat is because he doesn't want Burnham to have a perch in Parliament from which to potentially oust him from his bunker in Downing Street. And he didn't want to have to fight a mayoral election in Manchester, which he fears losing to Reform because the place is such a mess. And of course he can't say that, so he makes up a load of other absolute rubbish. The idea that voters don't want elections seems to be gaining quite a lot of traction, doesn't it, in the Labour Party? Apparently elections are a bit inconvenient for us. Well, as I pointed out to Jeremy Kyle on his show this morning, anyone who feels inconvenienced by an election has quite a good option just not to vote. So I think people can live with that inconvenience. What they want is the opportunity to oust failing, treacherous, useless politicians like Keir Starmer. And the more elections that we can have to that end, the better.
Right now, Keir Starmer just looks like a snivelling coward, just clinging on by his fingernails.
From a position of weakness. That was all about his weakness, wasn't it?
Yeah, and by proving his weakness, he becomes more weak. Only a matter of time before he's out of there. So you may think you've won this particular battle, Keir, but it's a Pyrrhic victory. There may be trouble ahead. Isabel, great to have you on. Thank you very much. That is our excellent Talk International editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Now, let's go straight over to our next guest. That is the Reform UK London mayoral candidate. candidate Layla Cunningham. Layla, thanks for stepping in. Obviously, I wanted to get you on because this is another triumphant day for reform. Your thoughts on the former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, joining today? We need some sound there, I think. Can we get... Yeah, we're going to... Layla... OK, Layla, I think... Sorry, we lost the sound there. Your thoughts on the former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, sensationally defecting to reform today. What did you think?
Well, she was always a perfect fit because, you know, she's always spoken about leaving the ECHR. And as Isabel said, that is fundamental to us regaining our sovereignty. And she's been advocating for it for a long time. So it really does show that the Tory party no longer speaks for the people's priorities.
It certainly does. And Will, I mean, you've now, I was saying earlier, I mean, just in the past week, I think it is, I think I'm right, you've got a former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Nadhim Zahawi. You've got a former Immigration Minister and Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick. Now a former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman. These are very, very big names. The trouble with politics, all these people, for example, you think about the Labour cabinet. Good politicians are known. It is good for parties to have people who have name recognition. Now, the Labour Party, the Labour cabinet is full of people who you've never heard of. Ditto the Tories. So you have, in the last week, recruited 3 massive names that people have heard of who held massive jobs in the Tory establishment. I mean, this is very significant, isn't it?
It is very significant. And what it really does show is, like you say, they're good politicians. And the reason why they're known is because, you know, they've taken a stand and they have conviction. And all those type of politicians who really want to serve the country and not the party have realized that the Conservative Party are too complicit to speak for the people, that they can no longer represent the people. They have to close ranks to protect the party, and they can no longer be a vehicle for change. And only reform can be a vehicle for change, and only Nigel as Prime Minister will affect that change. And listen, I get it. It must be so frustrating to want to do what's best for the country and be stifled or stopped by the party. And it must be so refreshing. And I think you felt it in Suella's speech. It must be kind of like a relief to be able to be in a party where your values match.
Yes, indeed. What do you say, Layla, to this increasing talk that if there's to be any victory of the right at the next election, Reform and the Tories will have to unite, have to get together to take on potentially the opposition, of the united opposition of Labour, the Lib Dems and the dreaded Greens? What do you say to that? Or do you think that will have to become a reality? Or do you think that Reform, if they continue to rise and rise, will essentially, as Nigel Farage has always said, completely destroy the Tory party and encompass all of the might of the right in under one headline, the Reform UK headline?
The thing is, Kevin, I don't think it's about right or left anymore. I really don't. I think those lines are blurred. They're not as they were. I think people vote on what their priorities are. And right now they're seeing a Labour Party, you know, that doesn't represent their priorities anymore. You know, the Labour Party used to represent the working class, those that work, those that graft, and now they represent those that don't, actually. And there used to be a patriotic country that believed in the sovereignty of this country, and now they don't. And the Conservatives are the same. So I don't think it's about right or left. I think it's about voting for a party or a government that prioritises British people above all else, that doesn't chip away at our sovereignty, that believes in law and order, that believes in rewarding people who take risks with their money, rewarding business and rewarding workers. And I know it's a commonly used term, but it's not. It's just common sense. It's just people want a government to stand up for them, not to pander to. What we've seen, Kevin, is successive governments have given away our sovereignty bit by bit in the name of global partnerships. And that has reduced our sovereign power, and it's reduced our autonomy to do what we want in our own country. And Nigel is the only leader who's fought for our sovereignty for decades. And so the people know that as Prime Minister, he will continue to do the same.
And I think the people of this country have confidence that Nigel Farage and Reform will actually solve the migrant crisis, which is more than any other party can even begin to do, particularly our current Labour government, whose stewardship of the migrant crisis is beyond catastrophic. Layla, good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. That's Layla Cunningham, Reform UK London mayoral candidate, on the big news today that Suella Braverman has defected from the Tories to Reform UK. Another big scalp for Nigel Farage. We'll be revisiting that story throughout the show. Next up, though, we're going to go down to Crowborough, where, of course, there have been these massive protests, huge protests yesterday against the conversion of the local army training camp into a migrant centre, an asylum seeker detention centre. Well, not detention, a place, accommodation centre, where the first of 540 young male foreign men are being moved in right now, much to the horror and fear of the local population. We're going to talk to the Mayor of Crowborough. That next, stay tuned.
I have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America.
That is why I say the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong.
You know, the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland. So we're going to be doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult way.
Any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. She's the Mayor of Crowborough, the benighted, lovely town in East Sussex, which is now about to become home to 540 male asylum seekers, migrants who have been shipped into this beautiful little town against this passionate protest of the local community. There's only 22,000 people there. They say they haven't got the infrastructure, and frankly, there are now safety concerns, particularly for women and children in the area. This is 540 young men, people like to say of military age, put it this way, of sexually active age. And I don't say that lightly, because nobody's accusing all of them of being potentially dangerous, but you know what's going on around the country. You know what's happening. More and more rapes, more and more sexual assaults, more and more acts of violence by these asylum seekers who come from different countries a long way away with very different cultures. So that's why the people of Crowborough are so worried and so angry that they've been cut out by the government, not consulted, not listened to. A warm welcome to Mayor of Crowborough, Councillor Natalie Whittle. Welcome, Natalie.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Would you bear with me because we're just going to play a little bit of footage. Our reporter Samara Gill has been down in your lovely town covering the arrival of your first migrants and also, of course, the big protest yesterday. So let's have a quick look at this.
Hello from Crowborough, where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
Well, Natalie, I spoke to your excellent local leader, really, on this effort, the Crowborough Shield person, Kim Bailey, last week. And Kim said of Shabana Mahmood in particular that, you know, she's never listened. You've never really been consulted about all of this. And I don't know if you saw Shabana Mahmood's tweet last week after the first 27 migrants were moved in, triumphantly, as if what's happened to your town is really popular for you and people around the country. She sort of went, this is just the start. You know, as if this was a magnificent development. You must be furious with the Home Secretary.
Yeah, I think that's, you've said it all. We're absolutely incandescent with rage that we haven't been consulted, that nobody locally has been listened to. I have it on fairly good authority that the Home Secretary has no idea how the army camp was used. This is a massive loss to our community, for our cadets. I hate to keep banging on about this, but this was a site that was used by thousands of young people over the year, by cadets from all over the country, not just locally within Sussex, and it's just been ignored. And we just get the feeling that people are playing politics with our town.
You're exactly right. I mean, I've heard about this, that lots and lots of army cadets, future potential soldiers, go there all the time, and that has just been blotted out. So that won't be happening anymore. Instead, you'll have 547 young men. They're all men. They're all males between the age of about 16 and 34. And I don't want to besmirch every single one of them. That would be incredibly unfair. But you know what we're talking about. If you look around the country, the number of rapes and sexual assaults by asylum seekers, mostly staying in asylum seeker hotels, but some in houses of multiple occupations, some in military camps like the one you've got, you know what we're talking about. That number of sex assaults is incredibly terrifying, incredibly worrying for your community, I would have thought.
It is. Can I just be clear? I would be worried about 600 young men, regardless of who they are. Boys get bored. You know, we've been assured that they're only going to be from 18 up to 60 or so, but we don't know what that is. This is part of the issue, that we're just not involved in these conversations. We don't know what provision has been made to keep people occupied. We understand that things might be in place, but the Home Office, again, it boils down to central government not really knowing this community, this area, not thinking about a high-level policy, not thinking about the people, not thinking about how it's going to impact a community. Crowborough is a small market town in the middle of Sussex, and we are not equipped for this, and there doesn't seem to be any thought or consideration. That's why people are angry. This isn't about a NIMBYism issue.
No.
This is about people being really concerned about what provision has been made, what has there to keep everyone safe, what is done to help and support our town to cope, because this is a lot of young people that we are just not designed for. We don't have great public transport links. We don't have a lot going on in that sense in the town. There isn't going to be anything here. People are going to get bored, and that is the main concern, that's when problems arise.
That's what Kim said to me. She said in the nicest possible way, and this goes for so many lovely little towns like Crowborough, market towns around the country. She said in the nicest possible way, there's nothing to do here, nothing happens here. It's a quiet place. But there being nothing to do could become quite sinister when you you've got 540 young men, many of whom, by the way, can't even speak English, milling around on every street corner. I mean, it doesn't bear thinking about. Kim also pointed out that, you know, 22,000 people, you just don't have the infrastructure for this. GPs,
exactly.
You know, policemen, you haven't got enough enough authorities to handle this.
No, the police that we are seeing in our town, and everyone's commenting on the fact that we are now seeing quite a lot of police around about in the town, are being sucked in from other populations around Sussex and Kent and Surrey. This is not new police. These are police that are being diverted from other legitimate sources of areas of the operation to come and police the situation. Again, what provision has the Home Office done to support these resources? There are a limited number of police around here, and that's the problem. It's just really like they've had a bright idea about moving people out of hotels, and this is a grand idea, and they've done it, and they haven't thought it through, and we are reaping the awful benefits of it.
Yeah, as a citizen of this country, Natalie, well, I'll tell you what I think as a citizen of this country. When Labour make this big deal about, oh, we're going to move the migrants out of asylum seeker hotels and we're going to put them into military camps, I kind of think, you know, OK, that'll save a few quid, I suppose, but I don't really care where you put them. I care about the effect on the local communities, the effect on the country generally, and I care about the fact that Labour have changed the goalpost to say, hey, what a triumph. We're moving asylum seekers out of hotels and putting them into military camps. How about this? You stop the migrants coming. You do something about stopping the boats. Do you see what I mean? Just the geography of where they put migrants. I mean, frankly, in the end, who cares about that? And it's towns like yours that are suffering because, you know, you had the misfortune to actually have an army training base in your
I
vicinity.
still feel honoured and privileged to have that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it is if they're going to put migrants in.
And I am but a humble local town councillor, and I'm not going to speak on global political issues. But there is a bigger picture here, and the numbers of asylum seekers has risen over the last 6 years or so, and there are stories to answer there. But the point is, this hasn't been thought through. This isn't cheaper. That's nonsense. It's pretty clear, and the information is there in the public domain, that it's not cheaper than putting people in hotels. Something better needs to be done, something more effective, rather than this knee-jerk reaction, thinking, oh, hotels are bad, oh, army camps must be good. Because it isn't that. It's horrible to think that we've just been so ignored by central government, and it's heartbreaking for our community, and that's why people are out marching.
Yeah, that was the other. Kim was saying to me that, by the way, in terms of the cost, you're so right. It looks as if the initial costs of the Crowborough Army Training Camp, turning that into a migrant camp, will be £5.6 million. So it's not exactly the saving of the year, is it?
No.
Meanwhile, Kim was saying to me the other day that she was I said, will the protests carry on? And she said, well, I seriously hope so, but I'm a bit nervous. This was last week. She said, because on Sunday, the weather forecast is terrible. So she was sort of, you know, biting her fingernails about that. But, you know, we all saw it on the telly. Absolutely phenomenal turnout. I'm assuming, Natalie, that these protests will not stop.
I'm not involved in the protests. You know, yesterday I spent the morning with my veterans at a memorial service, but as I was walking to that, I saw lots of local faces walking down towards the start site of the camp, and I assume that will continue. You know, there is genuine feeling here, and I want to stress that this is a real community issue. And what I don't want to happen is that outside agitators use it for their own particular ends. But there is a real community concern, and I want to stress that. And that's what we need to concern ourselves with, is how we get central government to really engage with us, talk to us, and understand why they think that this is a good idea and what provision they're going to put in place. Because at the moment, we're not seeing it.
Yeah, you're always going to get some outside agitators, but it's quite clear from the pictures we see from Crowborough, the footage we see, that the vast majority of people out there are local people who are concerned for their own town, for their own area, for the safety of women and children on the streets. And in that, I wish you, Natalie, and everyone else all the best, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you so much for coming on. That is the local mayor down there in Crowborough. Next up, we're going to talk about the extraordinary revelation that the government has quietly let a series of ISIS brides, people who ran away to become ISIS brides to fight with the caliphate, they've all been quietly let back in the country, you know, like Shamima Begum. Well, she's still out in Syria, but others have been quietly let in. These people are terrorists, so we're just letting them back in. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's play a voice note. This is from Kev, like the name. Let's see what he has to say.
Last week, it was like Brentford signing Ronaldo with Jenrick. This week, it's like Brentford signing Messi. Now we've got Braverman. I know there'll be some people who criticise because it's a Tory, but I used to be a Tory voter. And that's the kind of way I would still vote if they were a genuine Tory party. But half of them are wets, they're lefties, and half of them are righters. And that's why the Conservatives failed in the 14 years. That's what people need to remember before they criticise these. We're taking the decent ones.
Always listen to people called Kevin. Here's a quick notice from Richard in Ayrshire. Lying Tories never change their spots. They're a bunch of shape-shifting opportunists on the hunt for their next bundle of taxpayers' cash. And Jenrick and Braverman are experts at this, blaming others for them doing nothing. If this is the new Reform Party, new Conservatives, then I cannot vote for this. The trouble is, it's only natural that right-wing Tories gravitate towards reform. It's inevitable. And I think you have to be careful if you're just going to criticise, just say, oh, this is terrible. If Nigel Farage, you know, ask yourself this. I mean, I'm not here to bat for anyone, but ask yourself this. Would it have been a good idea for Nigel Farage to say to Nadhim Zahawi, former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Robert Jenrick, former Shadow Justice Secretary and former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, no, you can't come over to the Reform UK party because people will think we're just a party for old Tories. Would that have been a good idea? Would you have done that if you were in Reform UK's shoes, if you were Nigel Farage? I don't think I would. I think it's a sensible thing that he's done. We'll read more messages, take more WhatsApp voice notes, and don't forget, it's best to talk. It's good to talk on Talk. 0344 499 1000. Lots of rooms for your talks, for your phone calls throughout the show. Right, let's go over now to talk about this extraordinary story that Britain has quietly brought home a series of ISIS brides, as in the Shamima Begums of this world, who ran away from this country treacherously to hook up with the death cult, ISIS death cult, you know, to take part in the terrorism, and we've quietly just let them back. These people are a risk to this country, as is Shamima Begum. Let's talk to former senior military intelligence officer Philip Ingram. Welcome, Philip. Now, you and I have talked many times about Shamima Begum and the serious security threat she poses to this country. She remains over in Syria, but that detention camp that they're all in has now become leaky as a sieve amid Syria's uncertain political position. And so she might well escape, as far as we know. God knows what's going to happen there. But what we're learning today, courtesy of the Times, is that Britain has quietly repatriated Islamic State women and children who were held alongside Shamima Begum. 6 women in camps held by the Syrian Democratic Forces, those are Western-backed, of course, have been sent back to Britain without fanfare, along with their 9 children. This is a security threat, isn't it? What on earth is the government playing at? Allowing terrorists, people who betrayed this country, traitors to this country, who went out to hitch their wagon to that death cult ISIS, just allowing them back in, no questions asked. I thought the government's primary role was to keep the people of this country safe. That's not keeping us safe, is it?
It's not keeping us safe. You know, the advantage of Shamima Begum is there was a legal ability to remove her British passport and remove her British citizenship. So you know, she's got no right to come back to the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, there are some of these ISIS brides that there is no legal way of removing their British citizenship, and therefore, you know, like ISIS brides and members from other European countries, they are being sent back or being taken back quietly, but they remain a threat, and therefore it is costing us millions in taxpayers' money to monitor them and to monitor the threat, whilst they're probably sitting there on benefits with their children on benefits. So their neighbours, you and I, are paying for the privilege of these threats to our society having to be properly monitored too, so that we can stay on top of it.
Yeah, and OK, if we take these people up, I take your point. Unlike Shamima Begum, these women have not had their citizenship stripped of them, so we have an obligation to them. But they should be arrested when they get back. They should be prosecuted, shouldn't they? Instead, and by the way, Philip, we also know that it's probable that hundreds of Brits who went out to fight with ISIS, we're talking about mainly guys, of course, have also slipped quietly back into the country. ISIS has been allowed into Britain, no prosecutions. What is going on?
Well, and we're getting a huge percentage of former ISIS and other terror group members coming across in their boats across the channel, and we know nothing about them. We don't have any details. It's shocking. It really is frightening. The difficulty with prosecuting them is they've committed their crimes in Syria and in Iraq, and it would ordinarily be up to the Syrian authorities or the Iraqi authorities to prosecute them for the crimes there. There is no evidence that has been collected by any internationally recognised law enforcement organisation that would pass the threshold for the Criminal Prosecution Service in the UK to bring criminal charges against an individual, because it hasn't been collected in line with PACE or with any other piece of legislation, and therefore would be shot down immediately by these lefto lawyers and barristers in court, and individuals would walk away and we'd be left there with a huge court bill. So that's the problem with this. There is no evidence that will meet that bar of criminality in the UK under the way the law was framed when these people left, and that's the problem we have.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, the fact, if we're letting in ISIS brides, and we know that a lot of the actual warriors have come back in as well quietly, that means we're just not a serious country if we're going to allow that to happen.
Well, there's a difference between allowing it to happen and then monitoring and mitigating the risk. Our security services are on top of this. Our counter-terror police are on top of this, and the new National Police Service that's bringing all the counter-terror police and the serious and organised crime police and everything else together will provide a better coordinated service to be able to monitor this along with our intelligence services. So they're on top of it. But it's putting an extra strain on the resources when it's not needed.
Philip, really good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. That's Philip Ingram there, friend of the show, former senior military intelligence officer. Before we go to break, we're going to come back. We're going to talk to Mike Neville about Suella Braverman's alleged major police reforms and her alleged promise to scrap those hated non-crime hate incidents. She says, I'm going to scrap them in their present form. What does that mean? No, shabs. What we want to do is scrap them all together. Get rid of them. You see, not at all. We don't want them. Because that's like a free country, that we don't get recorded by the police if we haven't committed a crime. Should we go down that road? How about trying that? Let's talk to, we'll talk about that in just a second. Before that, though, let's talk to John in Newcastle. Hi, John.
Hello. Basically, these local elections, over the decades that I've realised, these have been the case, but not this year. It was even different. It was a little bit different last year, but this year it's unbelievable. First of all, you're told there's quite a lot of local elections not going to take place, and now it was up to 29, and actually today it's now up to 30 where these local elections are not going to be held, and in some cases, some in the future, it's 250 councillors in the years could stay for 7 years. That's longer than the Parliament.
Yeah,
5 years. It just beggars belief what this government's up to. I'm actually surprised. We're not lucky in this country, I mean, we've had 14 years of Tory farce, and now we've got this lot in, which it's heading on to be even worse, and it's just disgusting. How can you turn around and get a councillor put in, and he could last to 7 years? It beggars belief. It's Fantasy Island, surely it is.
Yeah. Well, can I just get your thoughts, John, on the fact that Andy Burnham, who was hoping to run in the by-election in Gorton and Denton up there in Manchester on February the 26th, has been blocked by Starmer because, of course, Burnham's intention was to win that seat and then mount a challenge to Starmer's leadership. What do you think about the fact that Starmer has blocked him from being able to stand there?
Well, personally, we're told by the people in Manchester, the governing body of Labour there, that he had a 4-year contract and he's only done 2 years. Yeah. So that's one point. But even to me, because I was born and bred Labour, and I'm certainly nothing like that today. And for those people in the future that will take this by-election on, if they've voted Labour for decades and decades, they've got to get into the real world here, because things is bad in this country.
I tell you.
We're sending people, criminals, back possibly where they come from, and we're giving them money for to do so.
Yeah, well, not very often, though. I know what you mean, but we're not getting rid of enough migrants at all, illegal asylum seekers. We just let them all stay. John, it's a total mess. Labour are losing a lot of support, including from people like you, good people like you. John, great call. Thank you very much. John in Newcastle. When we come back, Mike Neville on the police. And don't forget, after 5 p.m, after the 5 o'clock news, Lucy Connolly will be joining me with her take on some of the big stories of the day, so you don't want to miss that. Stay tuned.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's get straight down to it. Mike Neville, former Met Police detective, is in the studio. Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, good evening, Kevin.
We're going to talk about Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary's proposed sweeping police reforms. Now, central to it, the big headline in these alleged reforms, is her pledge, her vow that I will scrap non-crime hate incidents. So far, so good. I thought, oh, that's good to get rid of this nonsense where the police are recording non-crimes. The police shouldn't be involved in anything unless it is a crime. She said, I'm going to scrap them. And then the dreaded words, I'm going to scrap them in their current form. What do you think that means?
I really don't know. What I know is that the Labour Party started all this nonsense, and they do enjoy it because they can target people, they can target free speech, so it's for them it's a good thing, I suppose. And also the police, they're in a culture now. If you're a young officer, they're brought up in this woke way through the unit. Whereas I went to a sort of a military type establishment like Hendon, being marched around, taught about theft, learning things off by heart, learning how to stop and search people. A lot of these young officers now go to a university type environment, and so they actually believe that being offensive is an offence, despite it not being the case. And so I fear that no matter what she does or says, the police are going to continue down this line, and whilst there's burglaries, robberies, rapes going on, too many officers will be tied up dealing with rubbish.
This is becoming very much the MO of Shabana Mahmood, to make these very tough-sounding statements, and yet if you examine them, they fall apart at the seams. So, by the way, her big migrant crisis crackdown that she triumphantly announced at the beginning of December, how do you think that's going? Don't think it's made any difference at all. So, but here she is tackling our problem with the police. We have a very real problem with the police, obviously. They're just not working at the moment. Too many police chiefs, I think, don't seem to understand that their job is to solve crimes and to stop crime. They don't seem to think that's a particularly important element, too worried about sort of community relations and dancing the Macarena and all that kind of crap. But she says, one of the things she says, I will make policemen 999 emergency calls. I will make coppers respond within 15 minutes. And here it comes, the caveat, for serious crimes. Define serious crimes. If I get my bicycle stolen, for me, that's a serious crime. They ain't going to come in 15 minutes, are they? They're not going to come at all.
But the nonsense is, it's for the 999 calls, it's already 15 minutes. So they have these big announcements, oh, we're going to change things. It's not like they're saying, oh, it was 20, now it'll be 15. If you look on the Metropolitan Police website, if you look at the West Midlands with where Craig Guilford's just gone, they're all 15 minutes. In rural areas, they say 20 minutes. You know, they've got like they're supposed to answer the call within X amount of seconds, a 999 call, and then they've got to get there within 15 minutes. So nothing has changed. It's just some mad announcement that achieves nothing. And what if they don't? What's she going to do about it?
Yeah. And how about this? You want to make a good announcement, Ms. Mahmood? How about this? the police will be required to be there within 15 minutes of the reports of all crimes. How about that?
Well, I mean, you got to look at, you don't know what you've been called. So when somebody rings 999, it could be rubbish. It could be some really important thing. I think I said to you on a text message that, when I was in the Met, you had an end result was LOB.
Yeah, I know what that stands for.
I'll let the viewers and listeners work out what it, because you're called to some what's seemingly really important
load of you can work it out. Yeah, you can work it out.
With a police officer, you go there, you might arrive at a rape scene where a woman needs your help urgently, or you might arrive at some old rubbish where somebody's just rung up. So you can never define serious crime. You can't define it because you don't know what you're turning up to.
I would suggest that, except in obvious examples, very obvious examples, all 999 calls should be taken seriously. Then you get there, often they won't be, but you've got to take them seriously. So what does she mean by serious crime? And the other aspect of this, and I want to get your take on it, she wants to, shall we say, streamline. We've got 43 different police forces around the country, constabularies. She wants to streamline them into 12 mega constabularies. Now, there may be some advantages to that, but the golden rule of life is that the bigger an organisation gets, the less efficient it becomes. So if you going to have these mega constabularies, I would suspect it might be a ticket for inefficiency.
Well, Police Scotland is an example where they joined several police forces together and it just didn't work out. I mean, on paper it makes sense, and if you look at Berkshire, Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire, they have been one police force since 1974, Thames Valley. You look at Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire, Suffolk, Norfolk, they're all separate police forces, and there are you have anomalies. The Metropolitan Police got 30,000 officers. Manchester has got 8,000 officers. And you have smaller forces with Bedfordshire, 1,500 officers. It really doesn't make sense to have a chief in charge of them. So I can see some rationalisation. And we did see the problem with, like, Ian Huntley, where he had checks made he lived in Humberside, and then he was offending in Cambridgeshire, and those checks weren't done. So you can see there is some efficiencies to be gained, but the trouble is, as you say, anything involving the public sector, joining it together usually ends up in a mess.
Exactly right. Now, just on a last note, Mike, Reform UK have sort of formed this new organisation, Reform for Veterans. You're a veteran soldier, and you were at the event today where you're expecting Nigel Farage to make a speech to you all, which I'm sure he did, but suddenly he unveiled Suella Braverman.
Well, he did. Yeah, he was. I was there when it happened, and he'd been speaking about Johnny Mercer, and I was expecting a blow of the bugles, and he appeared. Suella Braverman appeared. The funny thing that I took of it is that, apparently, according to the left wing, all these people at that meeting were right-wing thugs, and there are all these right-wing thugs cheering a British Asian lady, and saying well done and really receiving her. So it just shows, I suppose, how. And there was a few Jewish guys in the audience, and you just think how politics has been turned on its head, and we know who the real fascists are. She was welcomed, cheered on there, and good luck to her. She seems a good catch. Some of the other people, like Nadine Dorries, I can't see how they got into Reform, but I think Suella Braverman, she stood up to some. And I think she's a good
She always seemed like she should be in Reform, so she said...
Well, husband is. So.
Yeah, I think he might have quit. She said, it feels like I've come home. Yeah. So I think she is a good fit for Reform. Mike, great to talk to you. Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. When we come back after the news, it's Lucy Connolly with her view on the big stories, so you don't want to miss that. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're going to be taking your calls in a little while. 0344 499 1000. Lots to talk about. The defection of Suella Braverman and also, of course, the problems in the Labour Party. Andy Burnham's bid to challenge Keir Starmer blocked by Keir Starmer. There's a big surprise. All of that. Maybe you want to talk about the migrant crisis, the mess in Crowborough. The poor people of Crowborough protesting yesterday. Their wishes, their desires having been completely ignored by the government, who have now put 540 migrants into the local army camp in a town of 22,000 people. They can't take this. Government doesn't care. Any of those issues or anything else, police reformation, will she really scrap that is Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary. Will she really scrap non-crime hate incidents? I don't think so. She said, in their current form. What the hell does that mean? 0344 499 1000. So all of that still to come. Ali Ross from The Sun, the TV critic there, will join me later in the hour. We'll talk about the perilous state of terrestrial television, traditional television, dying on its backside, I would suggest. We'll talk about that later. But first of all, I sat down with my next guest for a full hour, for a full and frank, as they call it in journalism, for a YouTube take. And I was very impressed because she's got a very astute political antenna. And she's been very wronged in the past. So I want to extend a very, very warm welcome to this show to Lucy Connolly. Hello, Lucy.
Hi, Kevin.
Good to see you. Good to have you on the show. As I say, we've got to frame you. You, of course, outrageously went to prison for a tweet. How is the situation now? You're out now, and I saw, was it a couple of weeks ago, you tweeted something about the president of Venezuela, or you liked a silly tweet, some joke, and you were threatened that that might affect the terms of your release. Are you still in that circumstance, or what's the...
Yeah, so that was allegedly broke my licence conditions in the sense of it wasn't of good behaviour. I retweeted somebody else's tweet jokingly asking, President Trump, it was after the Venezuela, right, thing.
Yeah, but you retweeted a tweet which suggested that perhaps President Trump might like to pop over to London and kidnap Keir Starmer. I mean, we can laugh about that, but the more I think about it, the more I kind of like the idea. But seriously, listen, so there's a number of things I want to talk to you about, but you will have, of course, noticed, and you're now connected to Reform. So I wanted to get your take on Suella Braverman joining Reform today, somewhat sensationally. Another big-name defection from the Tories. Just before we get your thoughts, Lucy, this is Suella earlier today announcing her big move.
I believe that a better Britain is possible. And because I believe that is possible, today I'm announcing that I resign the Conservative whip. I resign the Conservative whip and my party membership of 30 years. It's gone. It's over today. And because I believe with my heart and soul that a better future is possible for us, I am joining Reform UK.
Quite a moment, but we're getting quite used to them, aren't we? In the last week, we've had Nadhim Zahawi, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Robert Jenrick, of course, a former Immigration Minister and Shadow Justice Secretary, and now former Home Secretary Suella Braverman. Very, very big names. What are your thoughts on this increasing number of disillusioned Tories switching over? Is that a good thing for Reform?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly Suella, I'm a fan, actually. I think she's one of the better members of the Tory party. I think she's actually really nice. She's one of the nicer ones of them all, actually. I mean, Ray's met her a couple of times and he's always spoke really highly of her. So, yeah, I do think she's one of the better ones, and I think she will be an asset to Reform.
I agree. Now, for yourself, right? I've been watching your various appearances, Lucy, and you articulating your political worldview, and you're really good. And it's really you have, in my view, impressive opinions that you articulate well. In other words, in my view, you're a born politician. There's a vacancy in Gorton and Denton, the constituency where there's going to be a by-election at the end of February. Andy Burnham, of course, the potential Labour candidate, has been banned, blocked by Starmer. Would you be interested in being the Reform candidate there?
Well, I couldn't anyway, because I'm currently on licence, so that would prohibit me from doing so.
Is that right? Is that right?
But it always makes me laugh when people, Ray was laughing away on Twitter last night because, there was like, oh, we're going to unveil the candidate, and people were saying, Lucy Connolly. And obviously, I think it was last week, the week before, there was all this noise in the press about I'm going to stand for Reform as an MP. But I actually don't know where that's come from, because I did make a tweet along the lines of, we need new blood. It's no good just having the same old in the parties. We do need new blood, and we do need new people, perhaps younger people, business people, to step forward and stand for MPs. But I wasn't necessarily saying me.
Yeah, but Lucy, going forward, when you get out of your terms of licence, would you consider standing? I mean, Reform UK, I know, are very keen on you. You're a politico, aren't you? You're interested in politics.
Yeah,
would you like to be a Reform candidate at the next election?
Well, I don't know whether I legally can. That needs looking into for a start. I mean, there's conflicting information out there. Some stuff I've read says I can, some stuff I've read says I can't. So realistically, I'd have to really look into the legal side of it, and whether, because of the prison sentence that I got, whether I could stand.
If you could, you would?
Possibly.
Go on, say yes.
Maybe. Never say never.
Well, exactly right. Well, if you do, good luck to you. Now, let's deal with some of the situations that may be better if we had a Reform government. So first of all, what are your thoughts about what's going on down in Crowborough in East Sussex, where the poor people of that small, pretty town have had or are having imposed on them more than 540 young men, foreign men, asylum seekers. That town has protested and protested and protested. They've been ignored, they haven't been consulted. 540 young men of sexually active age in a community of 22,000 doesn't bear thinking about. What do you think about a government that does this to communities?
Well, it's awful, isn't it? Like you say, there was no consultation from the Home Office. They bust these guys in the middle of the night, thinking that they might get away with it. What about the poor people that live there, that pay their taxes, that pay their council tax? Do they not even deserve to be consulted with? And again, it's a case of, oh, it's all okay as long as it's not on my doorstep type attitude, isn't it? We've seen politicians, say, oh, they're all welcome here, they're all welcome here. And then as soon as there's some noise that they might be living near them, oh, no, we can't have them living here. Would you realistically, if you had children, I mean, I've got a 13-year-old teenager, I've got a daughter, so not in a million years would I want these people roaming the streets with her. Not because I'm saying for 1 minute they're all racist, they're all rapists and sex offenders and all of those things, but that's the whole point, isn't it? They're unchecked, illegal men. Yeah. There are no women and children in there. Let's have this right. You won't find one woman or child in that barracks.
No. They've made that clear. They've actually announced it will be all young men. Now, you're right about that. I mean, I'm being very careful here not to sort of besmirch every single asylum seeker, every single migrant in the country and say they're all potential sex offenders. That's not fair. But you know what we've been seeing in the last few months? An increasing number of asylum seekers who have either been charged with or convicted of very serious sex crimes, rapes, sexual assaults. That number is rising. And that's what the people of Crowborough are worried about. You know, there is no doubt you put 540 young men of sexually active age from foreign countries, different cultures, in a town like that, that will make women and children in Crowborough less safe, won't it?
Of course. I mean, there's no argument there, is there? I mean, I can't. I've been looking at the statistics quite recently for some writing I've been doing, and it's actually quite high. You know, if you look at it like per capita and the amount of men coming in, the convictions are actually quite high, you know, like rapes, assaults and things like that. Proportionally, they're quite high. And, you know, you can't argue with statistics. If the figures are there, they're there. And I mean, everybody would like, no, not everybody, but that perhaps people more so on the left would like to turn a blind eye and tell us that, you know, we're awful people for thinking that this, and, you know, we have rapists and sex offenders in our own communities. Of course we do. Nobody's debating that. That's not up for debate. What is up for debate is you've got 500-600 men living next to, I think, there's 12 schools within like a 3 to 5 mile radius or something like that are unchecked. They do not know who they are. They do not know for what purpose they are here. You know, they could be anybody. And they're living next door to people's children. I wouldn't feel safe letting my child play out or walk the streets with all these. They're not detained. Why are we not detaining them? I'm not suggesting we have to live, you know, have them living in awful conditions or imprison them as such. But we should be detaining them. They have broke the law. They have entered the country illegally. We don't know who they are and for what purpose they're here. So why are they allowed to walk the streets with our children? It's the equivalent to opening the gates now at a prison and saying to all the men, off you go, we don't mind. Yeah. Would people be happy about that?
Well, actually, the government is quite regularly in the process of doing that, but I do take your point. Yeah, no, exactly right, Lucy. Now, look, if we could just move on to another issue I wanted to get your thoughts on. This is extraordinary. I sort of broke this story late on Friday, and this is, so on Saturday just gone, UKIP wanted to have what they called a March for Jesus through the streets of Whitechapel in East London. Now, this is, you know, in fairness, a very Muslim kind of an area. And I guess you have to concede that to an extent, the UKIP guys, the March for Jesus guys, people, you know, were being slightly provocative. You know, it's like, you know, going through a Muslim area talking about marching for Jesus. But it is their legal right to do this. And the police banned that march. And the reason they banned it was because they feared that the local Muslim community, or shall we say the local Muslim extremists, might have got violent and attacked them. They said, we're not saying that the UKIP protests in isolation will be disorderly, but we do know that many will find it provocative and that provocation is likely to lead to an adverse local reaction. There's more to this, but basically they say, as the police, we can't just allow that to happen. So what they're saying, Lucy, is because the local Muslim community are upset, or would be upset, by the idea of a March for Jesus march going through their streets in East London, the police are saying, OK, call that off. My contention is this, that it should be the police's job to enshrine the marchers' right to protest, their right to stage that march. Instead, they just say, oh, the Muslims don't like it, therefore we'll ban it. Now, what does that remind you of? Oh, I know, it's the West Midlands police, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who did exactly the same. They banned...
Guildford guy,
yeah, exactly right. So, once again...
That deja vu, isn't it?
Yeah, once again, a major police force bowing to the local Muslim community because they fear that the Islamic community in Whitechapel would be upset by this March for Jesus. This is the kind of two-tier policing that, if you don't mind me saying so, landed you a totally outrageous, unjustified jail sentence.
Absolutely, that is the biggest problem with this, isn't it? So every week for goodness how many years now, week after week we've had Palestine marches and such like in London, which very often turn aggressive and people get hurt, and we've seen Jews get harassed in the street and lots of anti-Semitism going on. And also, let's not forget, this is the UK. We are a Christian country. And whilst everybody's welcome, as long as they're, law-abiding and pay into the system and all of those things, and, people's religion doesn't bother me. If they want to build a mosque on that corner and go to that mosque, as long as that's, they don't put that on me, I have no issue with that. But what I do have an issue with is it seems that Muslims at the minute, we're appeasing to them on every level. Christians don't matter, Jewish people don't matter, but oh goodness, we can't upset the Muslims. Everybody's equal, or they at least should be. We should have as many rights as they do. So we're in a Christian country. They've got no evidence of anything that has or may have kicked off. It's all fabricated. Just like it was, in the West Midlands, it might kick off. Well, it might kick off every Saturday. They're waving Palestine flags in London, but they appease them and hand them bottles of water out, and goodness, and goodness knows what else. But a Christian march in a Christian country, oh no, we can't have that. When's this going to end? When are we going to stop appeasing one set of people, but not allowing our, our own is the wrong term, isn't it? But at the end of the day, it is a Christian country. So if they want a Christian march, it is their legal right to do so. Exactly. Who are the police or the government to tell them that they can't do such a thing?
Exactly right. They say, oh, it was provocative. It's going to be... I hate to tell you, officer, but... protests are supposed to be provocative. It's your job to enshrine the right of protest. Instead, just like in Birmingham, the Muslims won't like this. Let's ban this march. What's the quote? As the police, we can't just allow that to happen. Well, you should be allowing it to happen.
Well, they pick and choose what they allow to happen, don't they?
Yes, they do. That's right. They allow ISIS marches through the middle of every city in the country with jihadi posters and God knows what, and from the river to the sea. They allow that, but if it's the other way round, if it's a Christian march, no, that is banned. Let me ask you this final question, really. You're now attached to the Reform project, if you like. Now, Reform are going to, they've already launched a big opposition to the extraordinary move last week, I thought, by the Labour government to go out of their way to push through an amendment to the Troubles Bill. So there's the Troubles Act, which did have in it some enshrinement of the immunity for ex-soldiers, old soldiers who did their duty and served their country in Northern Ireland for the British Army back in the 70s. Most of these guys now are sort of in their mid-70s, pushing 80. And the government last week removed the immunity that they bestowed on these people for prosecution. So they went out of their way to say that we can now prosecute these guys who are now in their mid-70s to 80s who happen to serve in Northern Ireland if they're accused of wrongdoing during the Troubles more than half a century ago. Nigel Farage is furious about this. I don't know what you feel about it, but I think that is an extraordinary thing for a country to do to men who have served in its army. What do you think?
I think Nigel's right to be furious, and I think for what has this country become? Are we seriously doing this? Are we going there? These, like you said, these people have fought for our country, fought for our freedoms, and this is the thanks they get. We can thank Blair for this, can't we? I think from what I can make out, but they were given immunity, weren't they, originally? And now they've been told, oh no, you're not having. And so please tell me also, bearing in mind, when we're talking about the law and the judiciary and prosecuting people, one of the bars is it in the, to hit, for the CPS and the police to prosecute is it in the public interest? Please tell me what is in the public interest about dragging these poor veterans in front of a court.
there really isn't any interest in that, public interest in that at all. I don't see. I just think, you know, if it was already in the Act and the Labour didn't do anything about it, that these guys could be prosecuted, and Labour didn't do anything about it, that would be bad enough. But it wasn't. What was in the Act was pretty much immunity for these guys. It wasn't total, but it was almost total. And Hilary Benn, the Northern Ireland Secretary, went out of his way last week to remove that and to mean that these guys don't have immunity anymore, and so we can now prosecute soldiers who served in Northern Ireland half a century ago. As you say, Lucy, what kind of a country does that to its serving heroes, its veterans?
And we know that the courts are massively backlogged. We know that, you know, people are waiting years for rape trials. We know that we've got rapists, you know, walking the streets that are out on bail that shouldn't be because you know, the courts are so held up. So again, please tell me how this is in our interest to use the court's time and money to send these poor guys. I mean, my friend actually tweeted about somebody she served with and somebody she knew, and he died during the whole. He would, you know, they dragged him to court and stuff. And his last, you know, I think he got really ill during COVID and died, love him. And his last few months and years were like overcast because, you know, with all this being dragged through the courts and stuff. That's an awful thing to put any elderly person through, let alone one that's fought for our country.
Exactly right. We've caused a world of worry for all of these guys who served in Northern Ireland half a century ago. Leave them alone. Move on. It's not rocket
We have got bigger fish to fry in this country. Way bigger fish.
You can say that again, Lucy. Lucy, fantastic to have you on. Will you come on again?
Definitely, anytime.
Thank you very much. The brilliant Lucy Connolly there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to break, and we'll take a few calls after this break. And also, you might want to talk about some of the things that I talked with Lucy about. Give us a call, 03444 499 1000. That next. Stay exactly where you are.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, have taken that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Lots of praise for Lucy Connolly. Wasn't she great, by the way? Let me know what you think of Lucy and what she had to say. 03444991000. This is from Amanda in London. A remarkable young woman, she says of Lucy. All through history, special people have had to suffer in order to fight their cause to help others. Yeah, well put, Amanda. Let's listen to a voice note. This is from Christopher on Crowborough.
Crowborough. NIMBYism. Of course it's NIMBYism, but what is wrong with that? Hands up if you want a prison built at the bottom of your garden. Thought not. Hands up if you want a migrant hotel opening up in your road. Thought not. What is wrong with telling the truth? Why do we have to have this obfuscation, this, oh, well, of course it would be fine, but... Speak your mind, people. If you don't want it, just say so.
It's a good point by Christopher. It's so ridiculous. Those people in Crowborough, they're just NIMBYs, you know, they're worried about what's on their backyard and all this kind of thing. Yeah, as Christopher quite rightly says, I don't think there's a community on the face of this country, probably on the planet, who would go, oh, yeah, brilliant, we've got 540 foreigners, most of whom can't even speak English, just moved into our town. Oh, and they're all young men of sexually active age and they've got nothing to do. What kind of a town is going to go, that's great? They're not, are they? Good point from Christopher. Let's go to the phones and talk to Michael in Birmingham. Hello, Michael. You want to talk about Crowborough? What would you like to say?
Kind of following on from the last voice note, really, we might fall out a little bit here. I think we do have to be clear on our messaging, because I get that the people of Crowborough don't want them there because it's a leafy town, you know, by the coast, all that sort of thing. But what's the alternative? You put them in places like Brum, where I am.
Well, you might as well put them in hotels rather than... you look, there's 540 young men between the ages of 16 and 34 suddenly imposed on a tiny community of 22,000 with one GP and one copper. They haven't got the infrastructure for it. Do you see what I mean?
No, because we haven't got the infrastructure here either.
Well, you've got hotels. And you've got a local police force that just loves the Muslims, you know?
Are we saying that the big cities in the grim northern towns can absorb?
No, what we're saying, Michael, is stop the boats, stop them all, get rid of them.
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, the point is that if they have to go somewhere, they should be not able to go out. There should be camps, and they shouldn't be here in the first place. But you know, all this thing about they're a danger to women and kids.
Well, they are, aren't they? I mean, they are potentially. It is emerging. I mean, again, I want to be careful here. You know, no one is saying they're all a danger, but we know that a subsection, a small number of these migrants, young men from very different cultures, are a danger to women. They've proved it.
Yeah, but if they're a danger in Crowborough, they're a danger in Birmingham.
Well, yeah, nobody's saying they're not.
Is it that our women and kids don't count, or the big cities?
Who said anything about that?
Well, that's the implication.
Well, it isn't the implication. It's that the people of Crowborough have been protesting. You know.
It's not about.
They're not saying take these migrants away from us and dump them on Birmingham, are they?
Well, we've already had our share. The message should be not about...
So you think it's a good thing that they've 540 young men... Well, what are you saying then, Michael?
What I'm saying is the message shouldn't be a danger to Crowborough, a danger to the women and kids of Crowborough. The danger should be... the message should be they're a danger to women and kids everywhere, and they shouldn't be in the country.
Yeah, but the ones in Crowborough are a danger to the women and children in Crowborough, aren't they? You see you see the nature of the protest there.
Yeah, but then you move them to Birmingham.
Well, Birmingham, you protest as well then. You can't just say Crowborough that, you know, they should shut up because Birmingham's already putting up with a lot of migrants.
What I'm saying is the message should be from all of us, by the way, and I do include Brum in this.
Yeah.
Not that we don't want them in Crowborough, not that basically we don't want them anywhere. That's the point.
Well, I get that, but you know, you can't knock the protests in Crowborough. I think in Crowborough, though, because it's a small community, it isn't about it being a nice place full of posh people on the coast. It's about it being a very small community. 22,000, suddenly 540 unknown young foreign men plonked in the middle of that community. That is a recipe for disaster, and that's what that protest is all about. But I think you and I, we're on the same page, basically, Michael. I agree with you. We've got to worry about this all over the country. But in Crowborough's case, there are special circumstances. You see my point? But I take your point as well. Michael in Birmingham. Let's go to David in Gloucestershire. Hi, David. You want to talk about elections?
Sorry. Good evening, Kevin. How are things?
I'm good. Do you want to talk about elections?
Yeah.
Or lack thereof.
Well, yeah, but the lack thereof. But I think the next election, as in the next general election, it's not going to be right, left, centre ground or any of that. It's going to be, are you fighting for common sense and right, or just sheer stupidity? Because that is going to be the big thing. I really do believe that. I think you've got it, you know, we cannot carry on the way we are going. We cannot be up to our neck in debt. We cannot keep taking in immigrants. We cannot destroy our power, energy, business, you know, and everything that goes with it. The farming. I'm an ex-farmer, you know, and destruction is just.
I know. I'll tell you what, David. I mean, I absolutely take your point. I think that the political debate, the narrative at the moment, I think, is about what you're saying. That it isn't that people are thinking, am I right wing or am I left wing? It's people are thinking, what is anybody going to do about this migrant crisis? What is anybody going to do about all these asylum seekers living in more and more towns all over the country? What is anybody going to do about the insanity of our net zero project? You know, what is anybody going to do about law and order in this country? What is anybody going to do about stopping shoplifting and so on and so forth? It is a sort of cry from the heart. People are going, can someone just do something about this? Because it seems like Labour don't give a damn. They're just letting everything get worse. The Tories are the people who got us here in the first place. They're no good either. If people are drifting towards Reform UK, it's because Reform UK are new and they are saying we will do something about all of this. We will solve the migrant crisis. That's why I think people are gravitating towards Nigel Farage, not because they're right-wing, but because they want something done about the various messes and crises in this country. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. That is exactly my very point. You know, and the other thing, just a very quick one, is, you know, how bad has it got to get in this country before these lefties actually wake up and smell the coffee and go, blimmin' heck, how bad, you know?
David, it could get, you know, it could get as bad as you could possibly imagine, and Starmer and the gang won't realise, they won't wake up to that. I'm afraid we have to get rid of them before anything can be done, but watch this space. David, good to talk to you. David from Gloucestershire there. Quick voice note. This is from Sally on the migrant crisis.
I've just about had enough of these migrants now, and I'm so sorry for the people of Crowborough and other communities that are affected by them. There's a place near me, it's an old factory which has been bought, don't know who the buyer is, don't know what the plan is for it, but it wouldn't be an ideal place for lots of flats. I'm really worried about what they're going to do with that. I don't understand why they give the migrants mobile phones and money. I mean, this is the way that they're getting around and getting illegal work, getting in touch with gangs, dealing with drugs, contacting young girls. I don't know why they give them a phone. Why don't they just take it off them, tag them all before they deport them?
Sally making some sense there. Yeah, but by the way, I'm not sure how many migrants have now been moved into the army camp at Crowborough, but we knew that in the middle of last week, suddenly overnight, 27 were quietly bussed in. I don't know how many more have gone, but we have genuinely seen the first of the mobile phones, brand new mobile phones being taken into the camp. So the residents of the army Army Training Centre in Crowborough are beginning to get their freebies. Stand by for free driving lessons, free trampoline lessons, and of course 50 quid a week, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers, free food, and so on and so forth. We just shower these people with gifts. Isn't that special? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, a change of pace. We're going to go and talk to Ali Ross, the brilliant TV critic at The Sun, about the state of British television today and what a state it's in. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. All the sport that's fit to print coming up fairly soon. We're going to be joined by Head of Sport at The Sun, Sean Custis. What a great weekend. I've got a list of stories I've been given. I don't see anything about Fulham's fantastic victory over Brighton, so I think we'll cancel the sports section. No, seriously, Sean will be in just a second. Before that, another Sun man, my friend. He is the best TV critic in Britain and the funniest by a mile. Read his column every Friday. He is, and he joins me now, the great Ali Ross. Hi, Ali.
Good evening, Kevin. Thank you for that.
You're very, very welcome. I meant every single word of it, honestly. No, I did. I love reading your column on Sunday. It's almost as good as mine used to be. No, you...
Friday.
Sorry. Mine was on Sundays, yours was on Friday.
Read it whatever day you like.
Yeah, well, I always wait until Sunday till I bother to read it. No, I read it on Fridays. Right, I wanted to ask you... generally speaking, we'll talk a little bit about the traitors and Nigella Lawson going to the bake-off in just a second. But massive event last week, or significant shifting of the sands in the world of television last week, when it was revealed that more people are watching YouTube at times than are watching the BBC. And this is the direction of travel, isn't it? Kids don't even know how to spell BBC, let alone know what the hell it is. They're not watching that. They're not watching ITV. They're not watching Channel 4, Channel 5. They're going to YouTube. They're going to the streamers. How much longer can terrestrial TV, traditional TV, hang on to their, what is clearly outmoded, scheduled TV business model? You know, at 7:30 it's Coronation Street, at 8 o'clock it's The Chase, and then it's our new drama. I mean, there's something inherently antediluvian about that, isn't there? Well, how much longer?
The current funding model, well, it's up for renewal in 2027, and negotiations are due to start. But you can't charge people just for having a television anymore, because that's not how people are watching it. It was dreamt up around the time of between the wars. That's how out of date it is, and initially for a radio. So they're gonna. You would assume any government that had some common sense and was forward-looking would have to say that this just can't go on. But you wouldn't credit that to Starmer and his mob. They'll probably just kick it into the long grass, as our governments tend to do. But in the past year, the BBC's lost something like £1 billion from people just saying, hang on, I'm not paying for this. Why should I? I've got a laptop, and I can watch TV when I like. But I'm damned if I'm just going to pay for the BBC when I don't even own a television. And I'm glad this has happened with YouTube. And it was the game was up as soon as you could get YouTube on a TV screen. This is a service you can watch what you want, and you can also make stuff for it, and you can make money out of it. It's brilliant in its simplicity, and you can watch as many Fulham games as you like, Ken, which I would imagine is what you do ahead of watching traditional television.
Yeah, audience one. Me. Yeah. Exactly right. Now, why is it that the traditional channels, now if you take the BBC, I mean, let's face it, Strictly is on the wane massively. For some reason, they're sticking with The Apprentice after 500 years. There's a new series coming back. That will get a fraction of the audience it used to. So they're clinging on to fading entities, you know, that are frankly symbols of yesteryear. I mean, what is The Apprentice still doing on? You know...
I was assuming, I've just watched it actually, the new one. It's not a bad show, but the familiarity breeds something more than contempt.
Yeah.
And they've thrown a whole heap of money as well at it. The first episode starts in Hong Kong. The BBC is inflation-proof, but because of its system of funding. It just exists, as one former MD put it, in a jacuzzi of cash.
Yeah.
It will never be short. But it's never existed in a time where it was prepared to take less risks. It just has formulas that it sticks with long after their sell-by date. And The Apprentice is a classic example of that. And in a couple of years down the line, I'm sure we'll be saying the same thing about The Traitors, which is going to hammer the life out of. We've already got a celebrity version, we've got the civilian version. As soon as the civilian one finished on Friday, it hit us with the Irish version.
Did it?
Sorry, God love Ireland, but there's things I don't want to watch, and the Irish Traitors is right up there at the top of the list.
So you can watch the Irish Traitors. I must tune into that. What's the secret of the Traitors? Why? So it got 9 million, didn't it? The final the other night. Why did? I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I hate parlour games, and so I've had a lot of. I keep saying I must watch an episode of The Traitors, and every time I get round to almost doing it, I think parlour game. Claudia Winkleman, I think I'll give it a miss. I never quite managed to watch. But what? So you tell me what the secret.
It's kind of lost on me. I'm not a huge fan. I watched this morning, and Ben Shepherd today had the winner Stephen on. And he said this was better than the World Cup final, wasn't it? No.
No, Ben, it wasn't.
Are you kidding yourself? There's a lot of hype surrounds it, so that draws people and say, well, I must watch that. It's better than the World Cup final. And it becomes an emperor's new clothes process where you think, what's the fuss about? There is a pleasing simplicity to it. I mean, anyone can understand it. It's just a game of blink murder, basically, but with some incredible scenery, which I always naturally think is the best thing about it. Ardross Castle up in the Highlands, it's stunning and it's beautifully produced, but I'm still left at the end of it thinking, well, what the hell's all that about?
Well, you summed up in your column this week, or the one on Friday, what it's actually about. You know, ITV2 has Love Island, full of these idiots who think they're going to be the next superstars by walking around in swimming trunks and saying they're good at sex, and then they get all disappointed that it doesn't happen. So they're just reality TV wannabes on the make, hoping to become one of those very rare ones that makes the grade. The BBC, of course, would never stoop so low as to stage a programme like that, except they're Traitors, which is the same. It's Love Island for middle-class reality TV wannabes, isn't it?
Well, exactly. The first thing we learnt about Stephen Libby, the winner, was he's quit his job and he's hoping to remain in the public eye. I'll bet he is. You just know 6 months down the line he'll be on Celebrity MasterChef. There'll be a Weakest Link appearance. it'll be there. And then eventually, after about a year of it, I'm still seeing contestants from the last series cropping up on things like Michael McIntyre's Big Show. They had them on last week, and you get into that stage of, oh yeah, it's you again.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot you can do with having been on the Traitors, unless you were extremely treacherous or just a bit of an arse. And they weren't really. They won fair and square. So, as Harry Hill used to say, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. And finally, Ali, I know that you've probably been losing sleep about who the Bake Off on Channel 4 would replace Prue Leith with. She's quitting. The greatest response ever to a question, I thought, when somebody said, Prue, you know, you're a major star, a judge on the very popular Bake Off. Why on earth are you quitting? And she went, I'm 86, for God's sake. Anyway, so she... Good on her. It's fantastic. She's going, and wow, Nigella Lawson is going in as the new judge. I mean, that strikes me as a good signing by Channel 4. Can she save that? Because it's fading, isn't it? Can she save it? Can she reverse the fortunes?
Yeah. The graph is very much pointing down on that one. Yeah. I don't think I wrote a single word about the last series. I certainly couldn't name any of the contestants. Yeah. It's just the law of diminishing returns, and every programme eventually becomes a victim of it.
Yeah,
as we're seeing.
Yeah, as you said at the beginning of our conversation, the trouble with television channels is they've never heard of that expression, flogging a dead horse. So they spend all their time flogging dead horses in a very, very woke way that alienates their audience. Another reason why they're going down the pan. Ali, I wish we had more time, but really good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. That's the brilliant TV critic of The Sun, Ali Ross. Read his column every Friday. Best column of the week. Funniest column of the week. Really recommend it. Next up, another Sun man, Sean Costis, head of sport, to go through some of the sport from the weekend. That next, stay tuned.
I have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America.
That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong.
You know, the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland. So we're going to be doing something with Greenland either the nice way or the more difficult way.
Any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Sean Custis, head of sport at The Sun, is in the studio. Welcome, Sean.
Hello, Kevin. What a pleasure it is to talk to somebody who knows a bit about football. Don't usually find them in this slot.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm obsessed with football. We'll get on to the big game at the weekend in just a minute. That's, of course, Fulham Brighton. Daylight robbery. We should never have won that game. But let's talk about what Arsenal fans are probably saying is daylight robbery, but it wasn't really. A hell of a match. I watched it. Man United, Arsenal, 3-2 victory to Man United. What is it that Michael Carrick is doing that is pre predecessor didn't manage to do. I mean, that 3 at the back format that he was so obsessed with, Carrick's got rid of it and suddenly they're winning.
Yeah, and at times it was looking like a traditional 4-4-2, going back to the old days at times, the way he was playing. He's brought a bit of calm around the place. They're enjoying playing for him. They didn't enjoy playing under Amorim. They didn't like the system, but I think sometimes he made too much of that system. It was just he didn't gel with the players. He didn't want to... And he wasn't prepared to adapt either. And Carrick clearly is prepared to adapt. He's clearly prepared to listen to them, but he's also, at the same time, imposing his own will on it as well. So there's a bit of give and take. He knows some of the players quite well. He's prepared to listen to a little bit of their opinion. Amorim was never prepared to listen to any of their
anybody's opinion.
And he's, Harry Maguire's back in the side now. There is a bit of love and hate about Harry Maguire around the country, but he's playing very well. He's come back into the side, doing well, making a late push to get back in the World Cup argument. And United have played well the last 2 games. They were coming back off the back of a win against Man City last weekend, which made many of my Arsenal supporting mates pretty nervous about this game yesterday. And because Arsenal haven't played amazing football, yes, they're top of the league, but you wouldn't say they're absolutely sensational, amazing team. There was reason for the fans to be worried, and so it came to pass.
I mean, Arsenal's goals weren't that great. A couple of worldies by Man United.
Oh, absolutely. Couldn't amazing.
So if Carrick goes on like this, can he continue? Why not?
There's a lot of because
he might not go on like this.
Well, he might. But the hierarchy's a bit scared of the outside noise from the former Man United players, aren't they? Gary Neville's already on record as saying, "Oh, it wouldn't be a good thing to give him that." And Roy Keane, every time he gets on telly, even when Man United are winning, I'm not having him. He's not going to... He can't be Manchester United manager. Keane actually said if he won 17 in a row, he still shouldn't be Man United
ridiculous.
manager.
That's ridiculous.
But when you've got somebody like Keane on your case all the time and he will never let it go, I think that's problematical for Carrick.
Yeah, it was obvious to me that under Amorim, the Man United players, talented squad, weren't enjoying their football.
No, not
Carrick, yesterday they were effervescent. They were loving it, and that makes a world of difference.
Bit of atmosphere back there again as well, around Old Trafford. Even though the protest is going to go ahead this weekend, the 1958 group are still going to have their protest against the hierarchy this weekend, despite the fact they've just won 2 games.
Well, maybe there's a little way to go. Let's talk about Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer could leave Chelsea. Well, good return to Manchester.
Our esteemed Man United correspondent Samuel Luckhurst has written tonight that Cole Palmer would be open to a move to Manchester United. Look, he was going great guns at Chelsea. Chelsea's a bit unsettled at the moment. He's been injured. Maybe he's not feeling the love quite as much around from the Chelsea bosses. He was, of course, a Man City player, but he grew up as a Man United fan. He's a boy-up Man United fan. And I think Man United supporters would quite like him. The only thing is where exactly would he fit at United? Yeah. It's difficult to see that at the moment, how he would fit into the system, but he's a very, very good player, so I'm sure they'd find a way of putting him in there.
Interesting.
I think he might quite fancy it.
Yeah, interesting. Big blow to Chelsea if he does go. At times, they've looked like a one-man team this season. Let's move on, because tonight on talkSPORT is the big match, Everton versus Leeds. Both teams quite a lot to pay for, particularly Leeds, who seem to be hauling themselves slowly out of the relegation zone. This would be a big one for them to win, but Everton are difficult at home, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, but also Leeds got sucked back into the relegation scrap back through no fault of their own at the weekend, with West Ham winning and Forest winning.
That's true.
Which caused a bit of problem. And nearly Burnley winning as well. Yeah. So it looked like they were making great progress. Farke changed the system. I know you like to know about systems there, Kevin. He changed Leeds and it worked. And they've got the feel-good factor back at Elland Road, and I think they'll probably be all right. But I take your point. It's a tough one tonight. But one which they'll believe they can win.
When's the kick-off tonight?
8 o'clock, I presume, isn't it?
8 o'clock kick-off tonight. Go earlier to talkSPORT for all the pre-match discussions, analysis. So that's Everton versus Leeds tonight on talkSPORT. Very interesting game. Everton, resurgent as well?
Yeah, they're OK, but they're where Everton tend to be, aren't they? They're a team that's never really threatened with relegation, but doesn't really threaten the top end.
They're kind of a Moyes-ish team, aren't they? Really?
to be fair to Moyes, look, he's put his imprint back on Everton. He's got them going forward to a certain extent again, and I think thoroughly rehabilitated after what happened to Man U. He did well at West Ham for me, and he's still doing a good job for Everton. You can only do so much with Everton.
By the way, while you're in, I want to just have a quick word about Fulham.
Yeah, I heard you wanted to talk Fulham
first of all, what about Franks over at Spurs? I mean, they got a draw this weekend. Is he long for this world, do you think?
I think it's still struggling. Pressure's still on very much. Who knows what would have happened had he lost to Burnley at the weekend?
Yeah, he was 10 minutes away from the sack, wasn't he? Yeah.
Fans still aren't having him. I think it's very difficult for him to survive. But of course, he's got Europe this week, which has been his salvation.
Yeah, indeed. Right, indulge me. I was at Craven Cottage on Saturday, Brighton. I'm going to be honest with you. They walked all over us for most of the match. They were good. We got a kind of kick and run equaliser in the 72nd minute. Chikwueze, got to sign him, brilliant player. And then this 92nd minute massive free kick by Harry Wilson, and we committed daylight robbery, got away with it. Yeah. What do you think is the situation at Fulham? Because Harry Wilson, obviously our star player now, he's indicating that, because there's been talk he's going to leave, but he said, I'll stay if Silva stays. Silva, I think 2 months ago was all set to leave, but now he's starting to win a bit, and we're 7th. Maybe he will stay. What's your feeling?
Well, I mean, Silva had a bit of a track record of leaving clubs, didn't he, previously?
Yeah, that was his hobby.
It was, but he seemed to have found a good home at Fulham, and they've been good for him, and he's been good for them. I think you all love him, don't you?
Oh, we do.
He's the man. But what?
He's a genius.
Like what I was
we
saying,
like to sing.
Like what I was saying about Everton. What can he do with Fulham? Where else? Where can you take Fulham to? You want to keep hold of players like Harry Wilson. But even in Harry Wilson's case, I was wondering, where would he actually go if he left Fulham that's so much better? He was a Liverpool player. He didn't make the grade at Liverpool. He's, 28?
Yeah.
Would the big clubs want to sign him? Even though he's having this great run at the moment, granted.
Well, they will, because they tend to do that in a knee-jerk kind of a way. Oh, look, he scored 7 goals in 2 months.
I don't know if he'd get a starting place at, say,
I think he's quite a smart guy. I don't think he's going to leap unless he's absolutely sure it's the right move. And I think he loves playing for Marco Silva. So if Marco Silva stays, Harry stays, and that's final, folks. It's not going to change at Craven Cottage. Sean, great to talk to you. Thanks for coming in. That was Sean Custis, the excellent head of sport at The Sun. Will Fulham win the Premiership? 0344 499 1000. The answer's no, by the way. When we come back, Philip Kisley from the New Culture Forum with all the big stories. That next. Stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the third hour of Kevin O'Sullivan's version of Drive Time here on Talk. Another 60 sizzling minutes to go. And then I have left my show, the Political Asylum, my normal show from 7 until 10 p.m. in the capable, the brilliant hands of the excellent Alex Phillips. You have been warned. But seriously, so good to hand over to Alex. She'll be in about an hour to let you know what she's got lined up for your entertainment on my show. So that in 60 minutes, but we'll have the next hour together. And we're going to take some calls. I'll read some WhatsApp voice notes, and we'll deal with some more big stories. But for the next 15 minutes or so, a warm welcome to the show to my old friend, senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, Dr. Philip Kisley. Welcome, Philip.
Hi, Kev. How you doing?
How's your voice?
It's getting better. I'm still not fit for yodeling at the moment,
Yeah.
but it's getting better. So fingers crossed.
That's a shame because I miss your yodeling.
Everybody
I really do. Now, let's go through some of the big stories. Let's first of all play Suella Braverman. She's made 2 appearances for Reform UK today. Earlier, at a special Veterans occasion for Reform, when Nigel Farage unveiled her as the latest big-name defector from Tory Towers, former Home Secretary, of course, very big scalp, and then they regrouped for another presser media event over the last 20 minutes or so, which I think is still going on. But here is Suella talking about her defection.
I believe that a better Britain is possible. And because I believe that is possible, today I'm announcing that I resign the Conservative whip. I resign the Conservative whip and my party membership of 30 years. It's gone. It's over today. And because I believe with my heart and soul that a better future is possible for us, I am joining Reform UK.
Now, Philip, you know, Suella Braverman joining Reform is not the political shock of the decade. I mean, we always felt, even when she was Home Secretary, that she would have been more at home in the Reform UK party. And indeed, today, like it was a weight lifted off her shoulders, she said, I feel like I've come home. Yeah. So she is, you know, exactly what Reform UK needs. She's cut out for Reform UK. But we'll read tomorrow in the Daily Mail that this is a triumph for the Tories. You know, it's good to get rid of all this deadwood that we don't want in the party anyway. But in the last week alone, they've lost a former... This is the Tories, a former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Nadim Zahawi, a former Immigration Minister and Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, and now a former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman. These are big names. In the world of Westminster, hardly anyone has heard of anyone there, particularly in the Labour cabinet, particularly in the Shadow Tory cabinet. These 3 names in particular, these are big names. Having name recognition in politics is important. This has been a triumph for Reform, I would contend, and all this talk of, oh, it's good for the Tories. It's not good for the Tories, is it?
Oh, no, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think at the moment, she is the 27th current or former MP to defect to Nigel from the Tories. There is no way you can spin that as being good. That's catastrophic. And I think that's unprecedented. I don't think that kind of thing has happened in modern politics before. But there's something else as well, Kev. It's not just what she did, it's how she did it and the tone of her comments, which are very similar to Jenrick. She talked about Tory betrayal. She talked about Tory lies. This is just appalling. I honestly don't see how they can come back from this kind of negation. This is a complete negation. She's dumping her membership of 30 years. She's leaving the party. She's an ex-cabinet minister. It's as bad as it gets. But actually, it isn't quite as bad as it gets. Let me correct myself there, because there will be more to come. That's the problem. And I think Kemi Badenoch is just sat at home now thinking, who's next? My God, what's going to happen? Who's next? How do we spin this? What do we do? Do we do something as terrible as they've just done, which was actually blame it on her mental health to begin with, although Badenoch wasn't involved in that, but they said, you know, she was unhappy, it was all about her mental health. That's appalling. As Nigel said, that's gutter politics, but I would say that's the politics of desperation. That's where the Conservative Party is. It's very sad, but let's be honest, Kev, they deserve it. They've let everybody down for the last 14 years, whatever it is. Their time in government was appalling. Immigration, identity politics, wokeness, you name it, they were responsible for bringing it in. They didn't stand up against it. Now we have the worst government in history, and lots of it is down to the Conservative Party.
Absolutely, and this sort of sanguine attitude that Kemi Badenoch goes out of her way to adopt, it is covering up an increasing sense of panic, as betrayed by that disgraceful tweet today from Tory High Command to suggest that the reason for Suella defecting to Reform was because she's got mental health difficulties, mental health problems. That is disgusting. Of course, they pulled that down and said, no, that was a mistake. But it does reveal how desperate they're beginning to feel. This is bad. Now, I've got a text here, Philip. This is from Angie. And I think this reflects what a lot of Reform supporters feel. They're not happy about this increasing number of disaffected Tories, particularly the top Tories, joining the party. They think that Reform's in danger of becoming a kind of retirement home for Tories whose careers weren't going that well under Kemi Badenoch. But Angie has written to me to say, Farage is playing the long game. Build the cabinet with Tory defectors, get into number 10, sack them all and replace them with proper Reform members. He hates the Tories after he stepped back and they backstabbed him. Well, I believe that's true, the last sentence, but he's a pragmatist, and I do think that he believes, quite rightly in my view, that getting particularly Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman is a really good coup for the party. How does he, though, Philip, deal with this problem? I think it's only natural that right-wing members of the Tories party, particularly MPs, who, like the rest of us, feel betrayed by the Tories for 14 years, Cameron, May, Johnson, Sunak, getting more and more left-wing. It's only natural that these people find it a better home for them in Reform UK. It's only natural this is going to happen. Nigel Farage would be foolish to turn around and say, Jenrick, no, or Suella, no, you stay away. He'd be stupid to do that. But he needs to somehow articulate or explain why this isn't a problem. And I don't think he's doing that well on that score at the moment. What does he need to tell the people?
Well, I think it doesn't necessarily mean his strategy now is going to be his strategy in 6 months' time, and he will probably change, and he will probably become much more choosy. Okay, I think what's happening is he really wants to put the Tory party to bed. He wants to put it out of its misery. He wants to put it to death. To do that, he is demonstrating and showcasing with every single defection that the Tory party is one step nearer to expiring, okay? And I think that is his end game at the moment. Give it a few months, his end game will change. And then he will really think about quality rather than quantity, because he will be that bit nearer to having to make really, really serious decisions. What he really wants at the moment is quantity. What he wants to see is the Tory party falling apart. And in a way, I can understand why he's doing that. By the same token, Kev, I can understand everybody's concerns here. But people, as I say, people change their strategy and adopt different different, different methods of doing things. First of all, I think it's getting rid of the Tories. I definitely wants to do that. I think we can all be fairly agreed on that. And then secondly, it's building this body of MPs around him. Yes, he's got some people who I certainly wouldn't have chosen, and I don't think you would have chosen either. But he has Jenrick, and now he has Braverman, and I think they are two massive scalps.
Yeah.
And let's look forward and let's see what he does next.
Indeed, and he said, of course, after the May elections, that's it. He won't be taking any more big-name Tories. He won't be accepting them into the Reform ranks. He's got to draw the line somewhere. But don't forget, after Jenrick sensationally defected, Kemi immediately, that's now a couple of Thursdays ago, isn't it? Kemi immediately announced, that's the last of the defections. And then Andrew Rossendale defected on the Sunday. He's a former cabinet minister, shadow cabinet member, and now Suella Braverman. So Kemi Badenoch saying that's the last of the defections doesn't put her in a very good light, does it?
No, I mean, at this rate, Reform aren't going to need a general election. All they need to do is watch the Tory parties, Tory politicians falling like skittles and rolling towards them. And then what have they got now? They've got 8 politicians, I think, now. OK, I'm being facetious, but there is a point here, isn't there? The Tory party is reducing and reducing and reducing, not only in terms of number, but also in terms of quality, in terms of influence, and in terms of actually having any kind of they're not taken seriously anymore. That is their biggest problem. Any statement that Kemi Badenoch makes, people just understand its damage limitation, and it isn't anything else. If a party is on the back foot like that, and they have been for such a long time, and the future just looks incredibly black for them, then I think it's curtains for them. I really do.
Yeah, I think they are facing an existential crisis. They could go out of existence like the dinosaurs. Your thoughts, Philip, if you will, on the Andy Burnham psychodrama. The Prime Minister joining, I think, was it 8 others on the National Executive Council of the Labour Party to block Andy's bid to stand in that by-election up in the north. And saying that, well, this is because if Andy did stand in the by-election, it would trigger a mayoral election. That would cost a lot of money. Nobody wants that. Is that true? I don't know. Want him to carry on as the Manchester mayor because he's doing such a good job. Interestingly, the self-styled King of the North, Andy Burnham, it seems to me, if you ask the people of Manchester whether or not he's doing a fantastic job, they don't necessarily concur with the Prime Minister. Most Mancunians I speak to seem to think Andy Burnham is a crap King of the North and he's doing a terrible job in Manchester, and he could bring that out for the whole country if he managed to challenge Starmer. But did you believe Keir Starmer when he said that was why he blocked Andy Burnham, because they didn't want a mayoral election?
Well, they didn't want a mayoral election and they're worried about cost. That must be a first, mustn't it? It's worrying about cost? I've never noticed that before. I think, that is a new one on me.
Yeah.
I mean,
so why do you think, Keir, I can't work it out. Why do you think Keir Starmer did block Andy Burnham for becoming an MP?
Why did he completely stitch him up? Yeah, Keir Starmer is just terrified, isn't he? He's not only terrified of Andy Burnham, he's terrified of West Streeting. You can almost hear the dining room table being dragged at the back of the front door of number 10. And I think Keir Starmer's just going to hunker down and become a recluse in there, like Howard Hughes, walking on toilet paper type thing. And we'll see a hologram of him every now and again, and it'll be diversity is our strength, and that's it. And the hologram will disappear in public, and that's it. I mean, he's terrified. This is ridiculous. But there is a massive civil war. There's an utter revolt going on. The MPs from Liverpool and fairly left-wing MPs are just calling for his resignation. But this is just par for the course with the Labour Party, isn't it? It's utter chaos with the government every day. They govern. They don't even don't govern by the day. I've said this before. They govern by the hour. And Keir Starmer is just literally holding on to the front door of number 10 with his fingernails. You can see the marks there.
Exactly right. And I'll tell you what his next move is going to be. I'll guarantee you. He will promote Angela Rayner back out of the abyss that she's fallen into due to her own disgrace and her own shameful behaviour over her flat in Hove in Sussex. Starmer will bring her back because, of course, she's hitched her wagon to Andy Burnham, and Starmer needs to break up that double act. So that's what's going to happen, proving, of course, Philip, that in politics, shame and disgrace only lasts a few days, and then you're back with a top job in the cabinet. It is pathetic. It's why people are so fed up with politics. Philip, great to talk to you. We'll get you on later in the week. Philip Kisley there, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Gary in Leicestershire. Gary, you want to talk about Crowborough. What would you like to say?
Bit of a contrary view, Kevin. Don't think you're going to like it, but there's a little bit of me that wants to smile when I'm hearing. There was a chap on early on in the week talking about his house backs on to the base. We can't get access to his garden. He's got. I've got bees. I've got a polytunnel. I grow my own vegetables.
So you think this is a class thing, do you? You don't mind Crowborough having a hard time because they're all middle class there?
No, I think
middle class Southerners. Middle class Southerners. Is that what you don't like about them?
No, absolutely not.
Why? So don't you think it's disgraceful what's happening to them?
I think it's disgusting.
So what's your problem with that? Why are you slightly pleased about it then?
I'm not pleased. You don't put words into my mouth, Kevin. That's not very professional.
Thank you very much. I'll decide whether or not what I want to say. Thank you very much, Gary. Don't tell me whether or not I'm professional, okay?
Do I get a chance to speak now?
All right then. Go on.
You're putting words into my mouth.
Well, what is your problem with the Crowborough protests?
I have no problem with the protest.
But you kind of relish it because they're a bit middle class, and one of the locals who lives next to the army base is worried about his bees. You think that's kind of funny?
No, I don't.
You think that's kind of funny?
Relish.
You think it's funny?
No, I don't think it. No, I think it's interesting because they have a Conservative MP. They have Conservative local councillors. They have Liberal Democrat local councillors. These guys didn't care about the migrant problem, which has been going on for years. When they were in hotels in Skegness.
How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know they didn't care about it?
They didn't care about it.
How do you know that? How do you know? How do you know the people of Crowborough didn't care about the migrant crisis before this?
They didn't care because it was.
How do you know that, Gary? How do you know that?
How do you know?
How many people do you know in Crowborough?
How many do you know?
A fair few, actually, these days.
How many? No, come on. How many?
About 10. How many do you know?
10.
You don't know any, do you?
No.
Stop saying that they didn't care about the migrant crisis. You don't know. You're making this up.
What did they do about it?
Well, that's not the point. You're making up. You are pretending that they didn't care about the migrant crisis. You have no idea whether or not they cared about the migrant crisis, and you are actually sort of relishing their predicament because you think they're a bit middle class and they're all beekeepers.
No, I didn't say they were all. You're putting words into my mouth.
Well, what is it? Why do you think it's a good thing then?
I don't think it's a good thing.
Well, so have some sympathy for those poor people. 540 young foreign men suddenly imposed on a community of 22,000. That's a very small town. It doesn't matter that they're middle class and they live in a nice area of Sussex. They could be anywhere in Britain. That's why we have to be concerned, Gary.
Yeah, and I am concerned because it's been on our doorsteps for years. But they didn't care because they voted for...
Oh, because they're middle class and they were all kind of cosy in their middle class world.
I never said that.
Well, what are you saying? Don't you like the people? What is it you don't like about the people of Crowborough? Do tell me, Gary.
I never said I didn't like them.
Well, why did you think it's funny that a guy who lives next to the army base was worried about his bees? Why did you think that's funny?
I didn't think it was funny.
I didn't say it was funny.
You're turning it into a class issue. Serves those middle-class Southerners right. That's what you're saying, isn't it? Now they can put up with what we've had to put up with. So we're all in the same boat on this, Gary, and I don't think we should be differentiating because of on the grounds of people's class.
No, I never mentioned that.
Well, you did. You said, ha, 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 there's a guy worried about his bees. He lives next to the army camp. Ha, ha, ha. That's what you said.
Did I say ha, ha, ha?
In effect.
So I didn't say it?
Huh?
So I didn't say ha, ha, ha?
In effect, you said that.
So you're putting words into my mouth?
Yes, I'm putting words into your mouth. I'll tell you why, Gary, because it's my show and that's what I'm going to do. Bye! Thank you very much. Gary in Leicestershire, he's turned it into a class war because they're middle class in Crowborough and they live in a nice place in the south, on the coast. They deserve it. They didn't care about us. How does he know? I'm sick of this crap, I really am. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now let's talk about wokery. To be honest with you, a lot of these wokery trigger warning type stories these days gloss over most of us. It's just like, oh God, not another one. But now and again, one of these examples is so egregious, so ridiculous that it warrants our attention. And here's one. Some alleged historian, says that Irene Kostler is her name, and she argues that the idea that there was some white male genius called William Shakespeare, and he was a brilliant playwright, is absolute nonsense. That in fact William Shakespeare was a black female Jew, a Jewish black female. That was the real William Shakespeare, the bard. I mean, the craziness of this is off the scale. So, as I say, this person, Irene Coslet, argues that the whole idea of a white genius was preferred to the idea that the real Shakespeare was a black female Jew. I wonder what our next guest, he's a proper historian, Rafe Heidelmann, thinks of this. Rafe, I mean, who knew? Shakespeare, there was us thinking he was this bald guy with a beard, lived in Avon, you know, and all that, Anne Hathaway, but no! He, in fact, was a black female Jew. So all of our preconceptions now smashed. Extraordinary revelation. Your thoughts?
Well, I've got some breaking news for you. This is exclusive. I've just found out she's writing a sequel as well, and the next book is going to reveal that Queen Victoria was actually a Sudanese witch doctor, and that Isaac Newton was in fact a one-legged Zulu called Maureen. I mean, listen, you know, Shakespeare was, you know, the world's greatest writer of fiction. I think she must be coming as the world's worst writer of fiction. You called her an historian, this woman, Irene Coslet. I've done some in-depth digging. I can't find any evidence that she's a historian. She's got 20 years of feminist experience as a feminist writer, and at the LSE, and she promotes gender equality around the world in some capacity. But I mean, this is absolute twaddle. It's a complete nonsense. There's no, you know, real basis for this. There was a poetess called Emilia Bassano, who was a real person at the same time as Shakespeare. She's basically saying this is the woman who did this. And if you look at the name Shakespeare, it's actually an anagram. A she speaker.
Is it? Oh, is that right? Anyway, so this book by our friend Irene Coslet is called The Real Shakespeare. Eileen calls herself a feminist historian. She is, of course, a graduate of the London School of Economics. And as you say, she says that the real Shakespeare was a historical figure, a real person called Emilia Bassano. Emilia Bassano was apparently the mistress of Henry Carey, the first Baron Hunsdon, Elizabeth I, Lord Chamberlain, and patron of the Lord Chamberlain's Men, the theatre troupe that Shakespeare made famous. Some writers believe that Emilia Bassano may be the inspiration for the Dark Lady addressed in Shakespeare's sonnets. But what goes through someone like Irene Coslet's mind to write a book so preposterously absurd, to make such a ridiculous declaration? What goes through her mind, do you think?
Well, it's rooted in two things. I would say snobbery and envy. Snobbery because she doesn't think it's possible that an Englishman, a lower middle class type person in England would have the breadth of knowledge, the imagination to actually write such moving plays affecting people, with characters who were of different ethnicities and who came from Italy and elsewhere. She's reflecting the trends of today. So Lionel Shriver, of course, very famous American writer.
Yeah.
She's complained about the fact that as a white American woman, she's no longer allowed to write characters or what a black male might be experiencing or what a Jew might be experiencing. You've got to stay in your lane. And this is the new mentality. Only you can write from your lived experience. Well, I'm sorry, literature, look at Wuthering Heights and Heathcliff and all of this. We can, of course, write about other people whose normal characteristics aren't our own. And she's fallen into this trap. And of course, this is yet again an attempt to eradicate the great Western canon. Western civilization is unique in the world, and there's a lot of envy about the greatness of what we achieved here. And we're lucky enough to have the world's greatest playwright, and that sticks in the craw that it's a white man who was the greatest playwright the world has ever seen. We can't have that. Have to make him a woman, and let's make him black and Jewish for the measure.
Yeah.
Tick off as many boxes as you can.
Yeah, let's go for the whole 9 yards. Let's go for a home run on this one. Black Jewish woman. Miss Coslet writes in her book, You're a historian, so you can answer this question, because Ms. Coslet contends historians have not managed to explain how the Stratford man, that would be Shakespeare, a semi-literate moneylender, managed to gain such a level of erudition. Well, I don't know whether he was a moneylender, but I think the test of time has proved that Mr. Shakespeare was not semi-literate. Quite the reverse, in fact.
Yes, well, let's just remember, the most famous man to win Mastermind was a black cab taxi driver. All right, you don't need to come from some elite circles to have erudition. But even, and she's not a historian, she has a degree in media studies, a master's degree in media studies from the LSE. Let's just imagine that she was right and that this woman, Emilia Bassano, actually was the real Shakespeare. There's no evidence that she was black. She wasn't black at all. Her mother was an English woman. She was born in London. Her father was Venetian. He came from a family of court musicians who were Italian. There was some discussion as to whether perhaps they were Jewish converts. But all the pictures, all the paintings show her as white. So she's conjured up this woman, and then she even says in promoting this book, she says, "Imagine if Shakespeare was a woman. That would be so good for promoting social justice." And that's what we've got here. It's almost as if she wants him to be a woman because it advances her 21st century politics. And that's what we have there, the insertion of modern culture wars, identity politics, into a world and a tradition where no one would have understood any of this.
Yeah, a conflation of something in the very distant past to the attitudes of today. She told the Telegraph, this woman, if Shakespeare was a female of colour, this would draw attention to issues of peace and justice in society. What if women had a pivotal role and a civilising impact in history, but they have been silenced, belittled and erased from the dominant narrative? So she's basically saying that women, in this case, the real Shakespeare, they changed the gender, they changed the colour because they don't want to admit that women have been responsible for all the great things in history, including Shakespeare's plays. It's just mad, isn't it?
Hold the front pages. Radical feminist says Shakespeare was a woman and hopes to advance social justice for women by so doing. Look, it's a matter of fact. You speak to people like Jordan Peterson and others, they'll tell you this. You get more men who are mass murderers, more men who are extremists and psychopaths, and you get more men who are geniuses. If you look at on the curve where men are, we're a lot more extreme in various ways than women are. That's why you tend to get much more famous, much more geniuses coming out of the male part of the population than out of female. There are reasons and explanations behind a lot of this. But, leave history to the historians, not to the media feminists, I say.
Very good point. But, of course, Shakespeare wasn't Emilia Bassano. Everybody knows he was actually Christopher Marlowe. But that's a different discussion. We'll talk about that one next. Thank you very much, Rafe. Good to talk. Rafe Heidelmanku, proper historian, on this bizarre claim by an alleged historian that Shakespeare was actually a black female Jew. Was she? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Got a couple of messages already about this. This is Clayton Ayres saying, according to Christopher Plummer's character in Star Trek, The Undiscovered Country, Shakespeare was a Klingon. Actually, he does look a bit like a Klingon, doesn't he? I believe this is more readily believable than Irene's theory. I think you're right, Clayton. I think you're right. Yeah, he does look a bit like a Klingon, doesn't he? Yeah, that's an interesting development. Here is Amanda. Shakespeare is a black woman. How I feel for the young today. Brainwashed in universities with woke nonsense, being told Shakespeare was a woman. Self-serving publicity, a self-serving publicity stunt. No doubt. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Buy my ridiculous book. She's got the publicity. Whether or not anybody will buy that old claptrap is another issue. Here's a voice note from Kelvin on the migrants.
All these troubles with the migrants didn't start with the Tories. It started with Tony Blair. Back in his day. He opened all the floodgates up to this lot. The Tories just carried it on, and now Labour are carrying it on. They just need to be kicked out, and people defecting to the Reform Party, I don't blame them. The Reform Party is the only party with any common sense. These Conservatives that have gone over are true Conservatives, so hopefully we'll get something done when he gets in.
Yeah, Kelvin making the point that Reform UK, a lot of Reform UK members go, no, too many Tories joining, but true Conservatives have been made homeless by the new Socialist Conservative Party. Conservative Party is more left-wing than Labour on a lot of issues, certainly more left-wing than Lib Dems. So true Conservatives who feel they've been disenfranchised by the modern, new, groovy Tory Party, it's only natural they're going to go to their spiritual home, which is Reform UK. I know it's an issue, but I think people have to think about this. It's not the worst thing in the world that right-wing Tories are joining Reform UK, because that's what Reform UK is. Nigel Farage is a former right-wing Tory. Richard Tice, the same. Do you see what I mean? So perhaps we have to get real about that. Listen, let's go to break now. When we come back, John Lucas, Night News editor for The Sun, will be in to tell us what is lined up for you in Britain's favourite newspaper tomorrow. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's have a look at what's going to be in The Sun tomorrow, Britain's favourite newspaper, with the night news editor there, John Lucas. Welcome, John. Big Brother-style facial recognition cameras are set for a massive expansion across Britain under a sweeping police shake-up. This is the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood's sweeping reforms to our police force. She wants to get rid of 43 constabularies and turn them into 12 mega constabularies, but they're all lots of nuances in her reforms, and one of them is she wants to really expand facial recognition cameras across the nation, so we'll all be surveilled everywhere we go.
That's right, and hopefully it's all going to work quite well, not how it worked when the West Midlands Police Force were drawing up the decision whether or not to have Jewish fans at the football. Anyway, beyond that, we know actually this facial tech that they've got is very good, actually, because we've had reporters have gone out on jobs with the Met using these vans, and they are pretty accurate. They're pretty good at picking out wrong uns in a crowd if they're wanted people. And they're likening this to you know, 100 years ago or whatever, the advent of fingerprinting, and they're saying this is essentially
police revolution.
It's fingerprinting for the modern age, and this will be the biggest revolution in policing in this country for about 200 years.
But very worrying, though, in a sense, for those of us who like liberty. Shabana Mahmood, I read this last week, when she was Justice Secretary, she said that her vision, her dream for British justice was this, that using AI, artificial intelligence, and new technology, that the state would be able to have eyes on all citizens at all times.
Yeah.
You know, is that what we want?
It's the panopticon, isn't it? Is what they call
prison,
it.
Yeah,
where basically the state can see you, but you don't know whether you're being watched at any one time. It's the concept of George Orwell's 1984,
Yeah.
and it is a bit scary. I mean, look, I'm a generic bald-headed man. There's lots of us. Have to say,
you lot all look the same, don't
down
you?
on the Sun, in the Sun newsroom, and you know, you do have to wonder. Look, could we very easily be picked out as a wrong? And that's not all there is to it. There's lots and lots of stuff. As you say, they want to bring these 43 police forces down to about 12. They want to. I mean, they've done it before. They want to create Britain's FBI. We used to have soccer. Then the National Crime Agency.
I think that's not a bad idea. I like that idea. You know, that makes sense. But can we? Let's move on. So, Big Brother Britain, folks, in your copy of the Sun tomorrow. You're also going to focus on the Iran horror. It's a really interesting story and a horrific story. You know, don't forget, was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? Donald Trump, if they start killing. If the mad mullahs start killing their own citizens, we'll be stepping in. Well, it now looks like the death toll among the protesters who are being ruthlessly crushed by the Ayatollah and his mad mullahs. The death toll is now standing at 36,500.
Yeah.
They have killed 36,500 citizens, and we're just standing by looking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely horrific. And what happened during these protests is the regime was able to crack down on the internet, so we couldn't really see what was happening. Now more and more stories are coming out. We're seeing horrible video footage, which we won't be publishing, but we've seen it online. And the figures, 36, as you say, 36,000 people. That's in comparison. That's about the capacity of the old White Hart Lane. If you're a Spurs fan, lots of other football stadiums. You know, it's quite a. When you think about that number of people, it is absolutely
and we're just
horrific.
standing by.
Well,
Suddenly people don't seem to be bothered about it.
Well, I mean, there haven't been huge protests on our streets. That's very, very obvious. But Donald Trump had said, get back out there on the streets, we're with you. Now, nothing actually happened. I think part of that issue was that the big Navy strike forces are actually parked outside Venezuela because they'd just done this Maduro operation. Now
he's spreading himself thin.
He's spreading himself a bit thin, but now what we're seeing, US aircraft carrier and warships have arrived in the Middle East today, and you know, they're standing by. Could it be that they're positioning themselves for a strike? Iran has said, well, if you hit us, we're going to hit you. But we've seen this in past experience. They say that actually they've been completely turned over with overwhelming force.
I think they're all
before,
talking no trousers,
we might
because they don't wear trousers, do they? They wear sort of long gowns. Well, look, let's move on to the most important story. Poor old Katie Price, always the bride, never the bridesmaid. She's getting married again, fourth time. She's 47, marrying some guy, some poor unfortunate guy called Lee Andrews. Got married in a whirlwind wedding in Dubai. I mean, OK, great, I hope she's happy, but her life seems to be spiralling out of control.
Well, she hasn't had a boring life. That's one thing you can definitely say about Katie Price. So she met this chap, Lee Andrews. He's a businessman. I'll get into what he does, possibly in a bit. But she met him about a week ago online. This is her account.
That's it, it's a week.
About a week ago online, she said they saw each other's social media, they liked what they saw. She said, we connected by checking each other's socials, and we quickly realised this is for me. And she said, in the old-fashioned way, first by words, that captured us both, and then within days we got matching tattoos. the old-fashioned.
Well, that's it then.
Anyway, they bought rings. They met each other, and I think she'd flown out to Dubai in 48 hours. She's married him. Her family sort of baffled by this. Don't know anything about the guy. Now, we did this in the paper, in today's paper actually. Yeah, so he had done this proposal.
Oh, that's right. You said very romantic.
In the Dubai hotel room, actually, he'd done this with another woman, exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same room, 4 months ago. The guy is an interesting character. He's got all sorts of businesses and amazing claims about his pedigree on his LinkedIn. If you look on our website now, you'll see quite a lot of good stories about this, and obviously the whole shebang's going to be in the paper.
Well, that's in the Sun tomorrow, folks. And let me tell you something else about Lee Andrews. He better have a good divorce lawyer, because stand by for the divorce. I'd say what, 2 months max? That's how long I give that marriage. John Lucas, thanks for coming in, mate. That's all in your sun tomorrow. Let's go to break. When we come back, Kinsey Schofield on the latest in the eventful lives of Harry and Meghan and the other royals. All of that next. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to our fantastic royal guru, the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, Kinsey Schofield. Welcome, Kins.
Hi, Kev. Good to see you a little bit earlier.
Yeah, much earlier, and won't have quite as long as we usually do, which is a shame, but let's see what we can squeeze in the time left remaining to us. First of all, Meghan and Harry went to the Sundance Film Festival to promote their film Cookie Queens. It looked like the theatre wasn't a particular sellout. And this Cookie Queens is about Girl Scouts. They've produced this film. I mean, what is this all about? It's not exactly going to put that many bums on seats. They're not going to get crushed in the rush to see this. Why are they producing this weird little film?
Well, this is one of those projects that they swooped in at the last minute, threw some money at it, and slapped their names on it as executive producers. When it comes to contribution, it's very little to none. But you're right. And also, I would stress, it's a way for Meghan Markle to be able to talk about herself on a red carpet, because during the press for it, all she wanted to talk about is how she was once a Girl Scout and how she's been an entrepreneur and a hustler from a young age. But they made an appearance at Sundance. To promote
Which
this.
Which is in Utah, right? Park City, Utah, isn't it? Yeah.
Which is in Utah, to promote Cookie Queens. And despite that high-profile push of two former senior working royals that no longer work as members of the royal family, the film is being described as a misfire, another flop. The screening failed to sell out. There were nearly 150 empty seats when the lights went low, according to Page 6. And it wasn't until the lights dimmed that waitlisters were eventually allowed to take spots throughout the theater for the reserved high-priced Sundance pass holders that didn't show up. Those are the VIPs. Those are the people spending $7,000 for a pass. They always reserve seats for them. None of those guys showed up, so that's when the waitlist holders could slide in and take space in the theater. You know, I think that gives you a bit of an idea of how uninterested these real Hollywood types are in Harry and Meghan, in their products. And for context, in the very same theater 24 hours earlier, the Invite premiere with Seth Rogen, Olivia Wilde, there were so many oversold seats that 100 people were turned away. So the fact that Harry and Meghan are not really seeing interest in this, you're not surprised. I'm not surprised.
It's just it's not a very interesting sounding film. It's typical of them. But a lot of people saying, Kinsey, that it's kind of bizarre for Prince Harry to go from last week, you know, sobbing in court about how the tabloids have made Meghan's life a misery, which, by the way, was absolutely nothing to do with his lawsuit against the Daily Mail. Nothing to do with it. He just brought that in. So there he is sobbing about attacks on our privacy and how these people have made, these awful journalists have made our lives hell. You know, privacy. And then, you know, he's jet straight off to Park City for one of the world's biggest film festivals to promote a movie, you know, in a blaze of publicity. It's a kind of bizarre way to behave, isn't it?
Schmoozing with the 1% on red carpets, posing for photographs from the same photographers or the same type of... remember Tom Bradby told Tom Bradby he gets PTSD every time he hears a camera clicking, and there's Harry on a red carpet at Sundance posing for photos with Meghan. Yeah, the hypocrisy, if there's one thing that's consistent about the Sussexes, it's hypocrisy.
Yeah, indeed. And what about Harry generally? You and I have talked about this before, but, you know, we know what Meghan's up to. She's always this whirl of dervish-like activity, none of it coming to anything. But, you know, you can't fault her for constantly trying. You know, she's always trying to sort of fill her empty life up. So she's currently acting in a film, playing herself. You know, she's got plans for more podcasts. Her Allegedly. Her hopeless TV series with Love Meghan has been axed by Netflix, but that doesn't stop her dreaming of more television products. She's always trying. Meanwhile, Harry, nothing. You know, he goes up to Canada to make a speech to a bunch of real estate agents in the, you know, purely for money in Canada, obviously. Comes here
about the death of his mother.
Yeah, he talks about the death of his money. Says his mother, this is the life he's leading his mother would have wanted, really. Then he comes to Britain to launch these increasingly bizarre lawsuits against newspapers that won't ever come to anything. What is going on in his life? Is he really fulfilled with this strange existence, this strange life he's made for himself, basically sort of in the slipstream, in the shadow of this dervish-like woman who can't do anything right, doing, you know, not very much at all? Is this what he really wants?
Well, they're describing this as a hit piece from Page Six, this new article that came out this week. Royal warrior to sideline spare. Prince Harry's uneasy new life in Hollywood. Spotlight crumbles. And in the article, one thing that the author says that I really agree with, based on the Vanity Fair piece that came out almost a year ago right now, American Hustle, is that Harry is completely content with Meghan being the breadwinner and being the stay-at-home dad. They say he rarely leaves the house, that he's completely content just hanging out with the kids and running the errands. I have friends that live in Montecito that tell me that it's Harry showing up for sports events. It's Harry doing drop-offs. Now, Meghan tells Jamie Kern-Lima that she's the queen of these things, but I understand that Harry is the one that is more out and about than Meghan is. He's also the one that's much more personable and will talk to people and is much friendlier than Meghan is. But yeah, I think the rent-a-prince route is what we're going to see in 2026. This huge debate that you and I have had over the last few months about this idea of Harry starting a business this year. What could he possibly do? He's all over the place and nowhere at all.
Yeah, I mean,
think
it could actually take the place of Meghan's business as ever, which, frankly, despite what she says, seems to be on its last legs. It will not survive, I don't think, for much longer. But there's a quote in this piece you're talking about, is in the New York Post, saying Harry's not really doing anything in America. It seems he is still very wrapped up in the past. Roger that, that's true. There have been rumours that Harry is starting a business, but he and Meghan don't have the best of track records. And they go on to say that they believe that the Sussex coffers are rapidly depleting, that they're running out of money. As ever, I don't think it's bringing anything in, and there's not much coming in from anywhere else. So financial problems?
Well, we know that they're spending $2 to $3 million on security alone, and it's my understanding that they are the major investor in Meghan's As Ever products. And if that's the case, and those numbers that are lingering around the internet about how much product she has available are accurate, I'd say that that should be a legitimate concern.
Exactly right. And what about this talk that Meghan may be having another kid? There has been reports in America that
there's no way Meghan would do that. If she were to, no, I mean, this is such a silly conversation.
Yeah.
If Meghan were to do that, I think she'd have to go via surrogacy, and if she went via surrogacy, Meghan was in the geriatric phase back in with Archie, geriatric pregnancy phase.
Yeah, that's true.
If she were to have a third child at this age, she's 44 years old, I think she would need a surrogate. She also lost a child before Lily, and if she has a child through a surrogate, then that child is not in the line of succession, and that would be a nightmare. I just don't think that she would do that.
So it's just that there's been a couple of reports, as you well know. Well, on that bombshell, Kinsey, a brief conversation, but a brilliant one as usual. We'll talk later in the week. Kinsey Schofield there, our royal guru over there on the west coast of America. And here she is, my old TV partner, Alex Phillips.
Hello,
Alex.
sunshine. How are you, treasure?
I'm very, very well. So what are you going to be doing with my show tonight?
Your show? I don't know. What do you want me to do with it? Keep it warm, keep it toasty.
I fear that you'll make it better.
No.
But that's not very difficult, is it?
Oh, come down. Come down.
No, seriously, what you got coming up?
News.
News. Okay.
Well, obviously, I mean, do you know what?
News. Bye. No,
that's it. I was away for a week, wasn't I?
I know, in Egypt, right?
Yeah, sniffed around the pyramids, and it's like defection centre.